This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
You are listening to the Voices of Wrestling podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
X out and go listen to some boring podcast where they're afraid of their own shadow. Okay? Don't listen to Joe Lanza, because Joe Lanza's not changing.
And Rich Craich.
Give me a name. Who delivers this guy in a big spot?
Joe, don't yell at me.
In the big spot, who delivers better than this guy?
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
And we are live here on the Voices of Wrestling Flagship Podcast presented by MyBookie. I'm Rich Craich, alongside, as always, King of Banter, Mr. Joe Lanza. Joe, what's happening?
How are you?
I'm all right.
Exciting, thrilling start to the show.
You're all hot and bothered today, so
bring in the energy.
I just, you're. Well, I'm actually getting something prepared here in the background that people. But before we do that, though, I do want. You're very angry right now, so I just want to make. I'm walking on eggshells.
I'm a little worn out because I just did the Thursday TV reviews, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, and I really liked Dynamite yesterday, but I spend the entire 1 hour and 10-minute piece of audio screaming and yelling and complaining about things, and I'm just bent out of shape and I'm annoyed. People just they aren't grasping. Here's what it is. Like, people are claiming that they're not grasping the Kenny Omega thing, which is very obvious and shouldn't require a ton of analytical thinking to understand. I mean, he's the best bout machine. He's a cocky heel who thinks he's the best wrestler in the world, and he's basically doing the same act that he's been doing for the last 5 years. I don't understand what's so hard to understand, but it's not that these people don't understand Kenny Omega. They're making up these imaginary sort of viewers in their heads that don't actually exist, and claiming that these people can't possibly understand the complexities of this Kenny Omega.
Right, yeah, person A, Joe TV, who's just flipping channels.
And AEW is doing such... No.
Yeah, well, it's like Joe TV, who lands on Dynamite and just goes, I can't even get my head around what is going on. What in the world is happening with this man who's coming out? He's got all these accolades. He's got these women that come into the ring with him. He's cocky. I can't understand. And they turn off and they never turn it back on again, ever again. They're done forever.
It just, it's almost like people are concocting some imaginary viewer that doesn't really exist, and claiming that person can't possibly understand what Kenny Omega is trying to get across. My counter to that is, if you've never seen Kenny Omega in your life, if you've never seen AEW in your life, if you've never seen pro wrestling in your life, and just watch Kenny Omega's entrance, if you don't understand what he's trying to get across, you might be the dumbest person in the world. I mean, how is it not more obvious what he's doing here? Let alone if you're a wrestling fan. Let alone if you follow AEW or know who Kenny Omega is. I mean, it's like slamming my face into a wall with these people trying to say that, this Kenny Omega story just hasn't been told appropriately.
Right. What
more do you need? He's got women out there with brooms sweeping the floor.
Well, dude, I listen to like the analysis of it, and it's even people that I think should know. But I'm listening, Brian and Dave and a bunch of other people going like, "What's this North Carolina thing in his entrance?" I don't know. Like, I think it's because FTR's from North Carolina. Like, you idiots, Michael Jordan, most popular athlete ever. Like, what? Why are we doing this? I think it really it comes down to a lot of, and we'll talk about this, of course, when we talk about Hell in the Cell, is that the industry leader has kind of told people that the way to tell pro wrestling stories is to tell them every single night every single time, over and over and over again, and hit it over the head and hit over the head and hit over the head, because there's no possible way that you, Joe TV, could possibly understand the story, figure out the story on your own, maybe in your head say, I think this is what this character is, but like, you know, I'm like, it's every single week and every single, and we get that on Twitter, people saying, well, you got to reset, you got to let people know. What about the first time viewers? And it's like, they'll catch up, man. They'll either get it in 5 seconds, because it's not hard to tell that this guy's a cocky fucking asshole, or, you know, they'll watch the show, and if they really get interested in it, they'll pick it up. People are smart. People could put two and two together, but the industry leader has said, no, our fans are not smart. So Corey Graves, every single time, you must scream out what Bayley's motivations are, or else people are not going to understand what Bayley's motivations are. And that has apparently leaked into wrestling fans' brains, and they decided now that you must do that. The only way to tell stories is to rehash the beginning of the story 1,000 times over. Yeah. It's this idea that people watching Dynamite don't know who Kenny Omega is or what he's about. This promotion was built and is succeeding on the fact that these characters were popular already. Right. That's why the promotion is doing well. Everyone knows who Kenny Omega is. Why are we pretending that there's some imaginary viewer somewhere who doesn't know who Kenny Omega is and needs this explained? And if there is someone channel flipping who comes across this, who knows nothing of it, as soon as they see his entrance, they'll know exactly what they're trying to get across with this guy. Right. It's like, you know, I liken it to, say you're watching, you know, you're flipping around and you find basketball for the first. You've never seen NBA basketball ever before. And it's the Warriors versus the Rockets or whatever. Let's just throw out two teams. And you see Steph Curry out there. And you see Steph Curry launch a three from 30 feet and it goes in. And everybody goes, wow, Steph Curry, that's his third three of the game, you know, and you look at the score, and it's like, you get the idea of stuff. You know, you don't need, you know, it's Kevin Harlan to say, well, that's Steph Curry. He went to Davidson, which is not actually that big of a college. And then he, you know, got drafted later in the first round because people weren't sure about his size. But as you could tell, he's a good shooter. Like, imagine if they had to do that every time. Like, they just say, it's Steph Curry. You'll figure it out. He hit another three. Wow, that's pretty impressive. These fans are going nuts. Here are his stats. If you want to learn, you understand the purpose of Steph Curry. You understand, wow, that guy's a really good shooter, even though he's just kind of a small guy or whatever. If you want to learn more about Steph Curry, you can go and find that. But I don't need Kevin Harlan to say every single time the entire life story of Steph Curry every time he makes a three-pointer. We had someone in the Twitter mention saying, okay, well, people might know who Kenny Omega is, and they might understand that he's a super cocky heel right now, but they might not understand why there's women on the stage with brooms. So? And my counter to that is, so what? Right. They'll either figure it out and catch up, or do some research, and if they care enough, they'll figure it out, or they'll catch up, or they'll never know. What does it matter? Right, that hypothetical viewer is going to get to the channel, see those women, and say, well, I'm never watching this show ever again because I don't understand that. Just like you gave, like, your anecdote. Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer, they don't get the North Carolina thing. So what? That's one minor detail, right? It's like, how many minutes do you think for someone who's never seen, I hate these comparisons. Like, you had to make a basketball comparison, and I'm going to make one. None of these are apples to apples, but how many minutes do you think into an episode of Breaking Bad would it take somebody to get the gist of it? 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, maybe the whole episode. And having never seen Breaking Bad, just plop them into the middle of season 3, episode 4. Okay, you'd have the gist of it. 2 episodes in, you'd pretty much have everything down. Would you know every nuance of every backstory? No, you wouldn't. But would you kind of understand what's going on? Would you understand Walter White's motivations? Would you get the idea that, yeah, you'd catch up. It doesn't need to be explained at the top of every episode that he doesn't have to do a monologue explaining to the audience that he has to answer. I actually love this idea. I would love the idea of you plop into, season 3, episode 4, and it's like, doom, a cold open. Walter White used to be a science teacher, but now. No, or they just concoct some scene where he's explaining his life story to another character for the benefit of the audience, just in case there's a new viewer watching. Right. That's not how this shit works. Okay, you give people credit. People aren't as dumb as you think they are. They'll catch up. And maybe, Rich, if you plop in season 3,
maybe you won't understand everything about the show as much as I do if I've been watching since episode 1. Meaning, okay, maybe if you're a new Dynamite viewer who never saw Kenny Omega in New Japan, you might not understand the broom reference. You might not understand some other little thing. You might not understand the complete backstory as well as I do. But this isn't rocket science. It's pro wrestling.
Right. And also the world's information is at your fingertips in 5 seconds. So you can just
Correct.
type in Kenny Omega broom and figure out pretty quickly what the broom's for. If that is really your holdup and the reason why you're just never going to watch the show ever again because you don't understand this broom, I think you could find it pretty quickly. I think if you put Kenny Omega broom, you might be able to find some information about why Kenny Omega might have a broom. So
yeah, if you care enough, you'll figure it out. Or it's like, in my example, Rich, if a character pops up in an episode and you don't know who that is, you might pause the show and go check the IMDb page or Wikipedia or whatever if you care enough to figure out who this character is. You see what I'm saying? It's not, you can't convince me that Kenny Omega, what he's doing now, is such a complex character that people just are going to. And I think you nailed it at the top. It's just one company has hammered us over the head with the way that they tell stories for so long that there are now fans who are convinced that's the only way you can tell pro wrestling stories. You have to hold everybody's hand and use the subtlety hammer and constantly explain everything. Every time a wrestler comes on the screen, Michael Cole explains who that wrestler is and why they're coming on the screen. I find that annoying.
yeah, I was gonna bring up is, to me, honestly, I think you're wrong off more viewers by doing that same thing. I think like by having to explain every single time. Imagine how annoying Breaking Bad would be if every single time, like Walter White's trying to sell drugs to somebody, they say, well, why do you sell drugs? And he goes, well, I used to be a science teacher, and then I got like, that'd be, imagine how annoying that would be. Fucking one season in, you'd say this show's stupid. Just let me
never watch the show again.
Right, just like, let's go. Let's just tell the story and I'll figure, like, but that's, people say, oh, you need to have that or else people aren't going to watch anymore. I think you're going to get less people watching, like, if you do that. If every single time Kenny Omega came out, Tony Schiavone said, well, the brooms are because he used to be the cleaner and the Michael Jordan is because the North Carolina is because, like, that would get annoying. Like, and I think your actual fans, the people that actually like your show and aren't just kind of scrolling or whatever, are going to say, this is annoying and I'm not going to watch this anymore. And
people will catch up.
Right.
And again, I don't love these comparisons because they're never apples to apples. But I'll give you another one, and this one actually is pretty much soap operas. What has pro wrestling been described as for years?
Yeah, an athletic soap opera.
Yeah, soap operas for men, athletic soap operas, whatever. But it's like soap operas, they're a thing of the past for the most part. Most of them have been canceled.
I'll speak for yourself.
I
don't know. What's even around? How many are even around anymore?
I don't know. I don't even know the answer to that. But
Young and the Restless, that's still got to be going, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I never watched any of them, to be honest, so I'm not sure. But go ahead. Yes, go.
The point is, they ran for decades. They were a television staple, and they were very similar to pro wrestling in that. How do you think soap operas gained new viewers to be able to sustain themselves for 3, 4, sometimes 5 decades? Whether it was General Hospital or One Life to Live or All My Children. Okay. They didn't explain Erica Kane's character on All My Children every time she hit the screen. You sat down and watched an episode, and after an episode or two, you got the gist of it. She's this rich broad who's been married 9 times. She's an egomaniac, whatever the case may be for each character, right? You jump in and you catch up. It's the same thing with pro wrestling. Okay, you don't need to be beat over the head with this stuff. And the fact of the matter is, most of the people watching Dynamite know who Kenny Omega is. It's like, when AJ Styles showed up in the Royal Rumble, he got an enormous pop. And he showed up cold. There was no origin story. Everyone's in our Twitter mentions talking about, well, every time Batman has a movie, they tell you the origin story.
Which gets made fun of by everybody. Comic book fans hate that.
Well,
I hate it.
The fact. It's like, okay, what's that have to do with wrestling?
Right.
AJ Styles showed up.
Also a terrible
cold.
example, by the way, but yeah.
No backstory, no origin story, never stepped foot in a WWE ring in his life. He got an enormous pop. You're not giving wrestling fans enough credit. This isn't 1978 where some new guy showed up in your territory and who had never been there before And you have to explain who he is because nobody has the internet. Wrestling fans know who the stars are. People know who Kenny Omega is. Again, they might not know him as well as I know him. They might not have watched him in New Japan, but they know who he is. And if you're a wrestling fan, you understand wrestling. It's not going to take you long to catch up. I don't know why a lot of these analysts and pundits, it's like they treat wrestling viewers like they're complete simpletons and everything has to be explained like you're 5. It doesn't. Just because one company has done it that way forever, to their detriment, in my opinion, why does that mean that this company has to do it that way? They're doing it their way. They're not hand-feeding you everything. They're giving you enough credit. They're saying you will catch up. If you haven't been along for the ride, you will catch up. And there's nothing wrong with that. And circling this back to Omega, if you don't get what he is by simply watching his entrance, there really isn't much hope for you. And it is disheartening where you have Dave Meltzer saying he thinks he's just supposed to be a superstar babyface. Right. Now, he kind of walked that back this week. And Wade Keller out there saying, wow, they got to stop making Kenny Omega so ambiguous. They really have to make... What can be clearer than this man's entrance alone? How is this ambiguous in any way? And how passive-aggressive he was towards Sonny Kiss after he beat him.
I could not believe the people.
Else,
I could not believe the people that were defending the Sonny, talking about the Sonny Kiss thing. Like, no, that's Kenny being nice. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding? Like, no, he's being a total piece of shit. Sonny Kiss just wants to leave the ring. Sonny Kiss just got embarrassed by Kenny Omega. Kenny goes, no, stay in. Come on, congratulations. Everybody, give it up for Sonny Kiss. Yay. Like, no, Sonny just wanted to go. Okay, I took my lumps. You beat me in 5 seconds. I just want to leave and just go to the back. And Kenny goes, no, come on. Standing ovation for my opponent. Hey, nice job. Way to go, kid. Like, that's so heel. Like, but then people just didn't get that, which that boggles my mind as well.
Even Sonny Kiss was giving him dirty looks.
Right. Couldn't have been
like, leave
more
me alone.
obvious.
Like, I don't...
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like maybe it's one of two things. Either we're making up imaginary fans who can't possibly understand the complexities of a cocky heel, or I'm the one that's off base. Because maybe if people like Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller can't even wrap their heads around this, maybe everyone really is confused and they can't understand what I see as a very simplistic character. And, and it's like, it all comes back to this thing where, allegedly Kenny Omega has never been presented as a star in AEW. So why would, again, the imaginary new viewer think that he's a star now? Or why would the imaginary viewer who never saw wrestling and didn't know who Kenny Omega was before AEW started, which I would guarantee that's such a tiny percentage of the people who watch it to begin with. Because again, this promotion was built on a fandom that already thought these people were superstars.
Right.
We cannot forget
that. And we're watching
part.
A YouTube channel as well, because that comes up a lot too. It's like, well, they got to do more than just tell stories on being the elite. And it's like they do tell more stories than on being the elite, but some stories get enhanced by being the elite. And I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a positive, because a lot of their fans fucking watch being the elite. So it's like, that's fine. And again, it's that we always say that little bit of a nugget, like if it's enough to be understood by your casual fans, that's good. And then what you can do is on being the elite, you can put in even more subtleties, even more stuff, so your hardcore fans that are watching every single thing, consuming every minute of content that you have, they go, oh geez, that's from being the elite, that's awesome. Whereas like, yeah, nice little things like that, nice little nuggets, there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. More things should be that way. You know what I mean? WWE should do that more. Every wrestling company should do that more. Reward your hardcores with some little nuggets here and there, but you don't necessarily have to make the whole show about them, and I don't think they do. But yeah, people assume that like if you don't watch being the elite, you're like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? What are the people's motivations? Yada yada, whatever. It's very weird. It's very very strange. But
I don't watch being the elite. I understand that what Kenny Omega's doing right now.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, listen. Even if let's assume there's some, I believe these people are imaginary, but let's assume there's some made up segment of viewers who didn't know a thing about any of these people in AEW, and they showed up for episode 1 of Dynamite because they saw an advertisement somewhere in a fucking magazine or on the internet or on Twitter or on Facebook for this new league coming to TNT, and they said, you know what? I like pro wrestling, or I used to like pro wrestling, or whatever the fuck. I'm going to try this out. And they came in completely cold. Can I give you some Kenny Omega facts since the debut of
Sure. Oh, yeah. That's what we're here for. We got 3 hours. Go ahead.
Like a star. Allegedly has not been treated like a star. You would never know Kenny Omega's a star if you didn't know he was a star to begin with. Did you know that AEW has had 6 pay-per-views and he has headlined half of them? Main event. Main event of half the pay-per-views. But this man has not been booked or treated like a star. He main evented the very first pay-per-view in company history. They followed that up with those 2 BR live shows, which are like kind of like pay-per-views, but not really. He semi-main evented both of those. And then he main evented Full Gear. And then he main evented Double or Nothing this year. He was third from the top at All Out. He was the semi-main event of Revolution in the tag match against the Bucks with Hangman Page. This guy's never been lower than third from the top on a pay-per-view, and he's main evented half of the pay-per-views in company history. But he's not treated like or booked like a star. Rich, I do the Thursday TV reviews every week. I talk about ratings right at the top, correct?
Yes.
I study the ratings every week.
Patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, by the way.
Study the ratings every week, correct?
Yes.
Get a hold of the quarter hours every week, right? Correct?
Yes.
Look at this stuff.
Try to. Try to as much as you can. But
Kenny Omega, every time he's on TV, nearly every time he's on TV, pops a number. But he's not treated like or considered a star. But because how could the audience possibly know this man's a star? And every time they put him on TV, he's in either quarter hour 1, 5, or 8. Rich, what are quarter hours 1, 5, and 8? And why are those important?
Big star
it's
quarters.
Top of the hours and the main events.
Yep, top of the hours, main events, big quarters. Yeah, big. Yeah, it's for anybody that knows anything about wrestling ratings, those are the quarters that matter the most in a 2-hour wrestling show. Yes.
1, 4, 5, 8. Those are you don't see Kenny Omega in quarter hour 7. Why? Because he's a star and he's a draw and he pops a number nearly every time he's on the screen. Why do you think they opened up all those dynamites with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page defending the tag team titles every week? Because he's a star and he's a draw and he pops quarter hours. But yet you'll have people tell you that they've totally blown Kenny Omega. They don't treat him like a star. They don't push him like a star. Nobody has main evented more pay-per-views than Kenny Omega in the history of all Elite Wrestling. He's put in drawing positions every week on TV and delivers. So where did this idea come from? See, a few weeks ago against Sonny Kiss, Kenny Omega's back. They're finally treating Kenny Omega like a star. He's back. He never went anywhere. He's been treated like a star from day one in this company, based in no reality. You look at the facts, you look at reality, he's been treated like, literally from day one. He main evented the first fucking pay-per-view in company history. From literally day one, he's been treated like a star. He held the tag team titles for 228 days. This is not WWE where the tag team titles are on the pre-shows of the pay-per-views, where you can't even remember who the champions are. It's important. Those titles semi-main evented the pay-per-views. They were put in important positions on the television. And since I have to explain things to people, it was very obvious then, and it should be very obvious now, although I can't take anything for granted with some of you idiots, okay? that the entire point of that tag team was to set up a Kenny Omega Hangman Page program, which is probably going to carry the company in 2021. If you have a brain in your fucking skull, you knew that all along. But now it's happening. So, I mean, what the fuck? It's mind-blowing that this shit needs to be explained. I'm disgusted that I have to waste time doing it. Don't come at me with bullshit. I've got the facts. Face the facts.
I was going to say a little Brian Myers there. I was hoping you were going to do it. I was like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to hit the subtlety hammer there, but there you go. Thank you.
If you want to tell me Kenny Omega hasn't been treated like, booked as, or is not seen as a star by the fans, show me evidence. Show me failed quarter hours. Show me him working curtain-jerking pay-per-views. Coming out, third on the show. Working the 7th quarter hour. Show me some evidence. You don't have any. Because he's been treated like, booked as, and considered a star from day one of the promotion. And you're all going to look foolish when he wins this fucking title from Moxley and then feuds with Hangman Page over it. That's probably where we're going. And it's a shame because I think Moxley's doing a great job. But he's had the title forever and he's running out of people to face. I could totally see Omega beating him for the title. And then 2021 carried by Omega and Page, which they set up in 2020 with the 228-day tag team title run. Where everybody thought Page was going heel and Omega was always the peacemaker. But again, the natural move there was for Omega to... Look, Rich,
well, it just happened too. I mean, that kind of struck gold too with Hangman just getting over as much as he did. And he's been one of the biggest unfortunate things about the no crowds is if you would have told me in February, I was there live at Revolution, I would have said, dude, you got to I don't know what, but you got to give this guy the title. You got to go with this guy right now, this Hangman Page guy. I mean, he is there. He's big. You have strike while the iron's hot. And I hate that last half of this year has had no fans, and it's like a few fans or whatever, not literally no fans, but like that's been the biggest casualty I think has been Hangman Page, who doesn't feel nearly as hot as he did in February by no fault of his own really, and no fault of really I think the story. It's just like he was a guy that had such a cool crowd connection and such just an awesome connection to the crowd, and the story was just building and building and building. But like you said, I mean, I think they've done a pretty good job of stretching that story out. And now when that story does come in 2021, and ideally, fingers crossed, hopefully we do have fans back again, it's going to be a big deal. It's just, yeah, they've been able to press pause on it a little bit, but yeah, by February that thing was already bubbling and like, oh my God, you got a great story here, go with it. But no, I'm right with you. I think that's, the way it's, and like really, yeah, if the story was going to be that Hangman was going to go heel and Kenny was going to go face or whatever, I don't really agree. I think that they always kind of wanted this direction. Even if they didn't want this direction, the fans made them go this direction, and it's fine. Go with it. You know what I mean? Go absolutely with this direction of Hangman being the face, because he had gotten over to that level for sure, and Kenny's a great heel. So yeah, I think even if that wasn't the plan, I think it's probably the right plan.
I mean, he headlined Double or Nothing against, the very first pay-per-view of the company. Then they put him in the tag team to get Page over. How was this not obvious? And then all along the way, like, how many promos did this guy cut? Where, and after they lost the titles, when he cut the promo where he said, I'm going to get back into singles wrestling because I think I'm the best singles wrestler in the company and this and that. They've explained all this. People pretend like they don't explain these things either. They just don't beat you over the head with it.
Yeah, I think one thing too with Kenny, and it applies to Cody as well, and those two guys have been really good about that, and AEW's been good about this, is the guys that have superstar entrances are superstars. You know what I mean? Not to use the WWE term or whatever, but the overall term of like when you're actually not the term of like everybody, Otis isn't a fucking superstar. But like Cody comes out and there's fucking 7,000 explosions, there's a band playing for him, he comes out of a fucking throne, you know what I mean? Like that's like, holy shit, okay.
He's
that guy's a star.
Up from underneath the ground.
Right. Like not everybody, if everybody came out with that entrance, then it'd be like, well then no, there's no differential, no differentiation between, what Cody does and what other guys do. And Kenny's the same way too. He comes out, his theme song takes a little while to get going. You see him walking the streets, it's the whole, video, and then he comes out and the song builds up and then he fucking throws his hands in the air and a bunch of fucking fireworks go all over the place. And it's like, yeah, you can't tell from that he's a star. Like that's another huge giveaway in AEW, is that some guys just walk out. Some guys walk out with, a pretty cool entrance. Some guys walk out with some props or whatever. But the stars, dude, you can tell the stars' entrances. Kenny has a star entrance. Cody has a star entrance. Even the Young Bucks, I think, have a somewhat star entrance. But I think they're even below Kenny and Cody. I mean, when those guys come out, it's just, bam, there's fucking 7,000 explosions. And it's just clear it feels different in the arena when you're there live, too. So that's another way that they tell you and really, hit, not necessarily, hit you over the head, but I'd say for me it hits me over the head that, hey, this guy's the star and that guy's not. Like, but to some people, I guess they don't pick up on that.
Just a waste of time. I mean, why do I have to waste my time doing this? It's I don't know. I guess at the top of every Dynamite, they should give everybody's origin story like they do in the dopey comic book movies that everybody's hitting up our Twitter replies with. I don't know.
This is Cody. His father's Dusty Rhodes, who was in the WWF and WCW as well as Florida. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was the booker of WCW, but he also wrestled in Florida and also in the Carolinas, and he was the champion. Like, how far do you want to go back? How far do we have to tell the origin story of Cody? You know?
Well, all those famous episodes of Memphis Wrestling where they explained who Jerry Lawler was.
This is Jerry the King Lawler. He throws a really good punch, and when he puts his strap down, that means business. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like Lance Russell, hello, folks. All right, like,
yeah. Or
that guy in the goatee is Jerry the King Lawler. Like. Or
you watch one Lawler match and watch him drop the strap, and I get it now.
Right.
It's not difficult. It's this stuff isn't complex, but the new trend is to create imaginary viewers who are simpletons who need to be spoon-fed everything, or you're not doing a good job telling your stories.
Well, we're gonna talk about that with Hell in a Cell in a bit here. I mean, that I think is a tale of two matches, especially on Hell in a Cell. One where I think they didn't spoon feed you, and then one where a man screamed, "Acknowledge me" for 35 minutes. So,
yeah, I don't want to jump ahead.
No.
I got some takes on that one.
Ooh, takes.
Gotta have the takes. What are we here for? If we don't,
you gotta have the takes. Yeah. All right. Are you done with your Kenny thing?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, Joe. I have a question for you.
Oh, shoot.
Yes. Okay, Joe. I have a question for you.
Okay, I'm ready to answer it.
Are you ready? To walk with Elias? Elias Universal Truth has dropped, Joe.
Oh.
Are you ready to listen to this album?
I'm ready
the whole way through. Every single song, all four. No, we don't have to actually listen to all four songs. Can you hear this?
I can hear it.
I listened to this earlier. This song's actually pretty good. I don't mind this song.
Oh, so you wanted to do a bit, but the song got over with you.
I was listening to the car on my way home, making sure it was actually like available or whatever, and I was like, it's not good, but I don't hate it. This is Amen. Parentheses, I'm going in, by the way. So
yeah. Hallelujah.
I'm gonna fade it into the back so we can discuss. Amen. Parentheses, I'm going in. So.
Oh, you enjoy this?
Not really. No, it's. It
sounds horrible.
I'll admit it, I got a little head nod with the rhythm got my head bobbing a little bit, but it's pretty terrible. The actual singing is horrendous. So
the lyrics were terrible. There you go. See, he's talking about being a sinner.
Yeah, hold on. Let's okay. You did a pretty good job of recreating.
Oh, so generic. So generic.
Oh, wow. All right. That is Amen. I'm going in, which is a very horny song, as our chat room is pointing in.
Is it a horny song?
He's going in. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's to heaven.
I don't think that's what he means.
What do you think he's going in? Heaven?
No,
so I need to know. Please explain the song to me.
I'm a sinner. And I'm going in. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just jibber jabber. I don't think it really means anything.
Joe, this jibber jabber is number one on Apple Music's soundtracks list today. All right, so you show some fucking respect. All right.
That's one of those contrived things, like where we say,
yeah, like at one point, I remember we were on the like new and noteworthy. We were like number one on new and noteworthy pro wrestling podcast for like a week, and it was like, look at that. Like, it's just like, well, yeah, like no one else had a soundtrack album this week that anybody listened to. But no, it's Triple H went out to on Twitter to thank Elias, or congratulate Elias for reaching number 1.
Why is that a soundtrack?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Why is that even classified as a soundtrack?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
So they just picked a category that they can get to number 1 in. Is what they did.
Maybe, yeah. Because I don't think like shitty folk or whatever is a category that he could win. So, so that's
it's number 1 in the very prestigious wrestling gospel category.
Right.
Is what it is.
So that was Amen. I'm going in. So you your thoughts on Amen going in? What's your star rating for Amen going in? You can listen on your own time, by the way, if you'd like to as well. So.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
It's terrible. It sucked. I hated it. But I will say that I really nailed those lyrics.
You really did. I as I was listening on my car at home, I was like, damn, Joe really did like you did a pretty damn good job of recreating the songs from WWE Universal Truth, Elias Universal Truth. So
you thought the lyrics couldn't possibly be that simplistic, and you were wrong.
I was definitely wrong. All right, so you ready for Streetlight? This is one that I remember you talking about.
Yes.
Yesterday. You ready for Streetlight? I think we have to pay this guy like fucking money now on our YouTube ads. Yeah, I just realized that now. He's probably going to copyright us on these YouTube ads. That's all right. You can have them. You know what, Elias? Take them. It's cool. All right, you ready for Streetlight? Joe, are you still with me? Oh, no. Joe has been overcome by emotions. Oh, okay. You were... Oh, jeez.
Fucking song.
All right, you were gone. I was wondering if you were overcome by emotions. But okay, all right. All right, this is Streetlight. We got a long build here. Oh, no. What is this?
There's an angel watches over
No way.
I don't know his name, and I can never see. People ask,
What?
what does this mean? You gotta have faith if you truly want to be. Set a street light up ahead.
Told you.
Ooh, there. Yeah, get that bass drum in there. All right, I can't listen to this anymore.
This is so bad.
What?
The other one was way better.
Yeah, that Streetlight that's like wrestling boot band. Hulk Hogan and the Wrestling Boot Band bad. Now we're sure this isn't a joke, right? Like, do they think he's good? What am I as a viewer? What am I supposed to think? I'm supposed to think he's a serious artist, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
But Jeff Hardy attacked them anyway.
Right.
That's what's confusing about it.
Because he's a heel.
Jeff Hardy.
He's a heel.
But
because
Jeff Hardy's
right? He's a heel.
Yeah. Jeff Hardy's supposed to be the babyface, but Jeff Hardy attacked him for playing his music on Raw,
right,
or SmackDown, whatever dopey show. Yeah. So you're supposed to cheer Jeff Hardy for breaking up the concert,
but also buy this album. But then
you're supposed to go buy the record.
Right. Okay. All right. The one lyric, people in the chat room turned the radio on. It was playing a song I never heard before. Yeah. Like, what? So he turned on the radio. They was playing a song he never heard before. A tear rolled down his eye, and that's when he knew he was human, I think is what the lyrics essentially were. So
yeah, it's awful.
It's
terrible.
Not great. It's not great. I won't lie. I'm also not sure I don't know what category this is supposed to be. Like, you're right, it's kind of gospel-y, but like, why? He's not really like a...
Well, I mean, clearly it's a soundtrack.
2? Our
You tell me.
lives? Is it a soundtrack to our lives? What is this?
This is the #1 soundtrack in America, Rich.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wrestling gospel.
All right, ready for Lead Me Home?
I guess so.
There's only one more left to go after Lead Me Home. So, all right, here we go. This is Lead Me Home. All right, let's cut to the chase here, pal. Let's go.
This has an electric guitar.
Yes.
Think he's playing it?
No.
No?
Oh, okay. Wow. All right.
Every singer in a bar writes their songs the same way, where they just take the title of the song, right?
Right.
And they say, won't you lead me home? Won't you lead me home? Like, no matter what the title of the song is, you just stick won't you in front of it.
Right.
And then sing that over and over.
Well, we talked about him as like the bar guy that like you're eating, you got your meal, you're maybe hanging out at the bar, and all of a sudden you see a guy walk in. I don't know if you do this, because I absolutely do this. Like, me and my friends are at a bar, we're trying to watch a game or just hang out or whatever, and a guy walks in, and you just know that this asshole's the guy that's going to be the live music guy.
Yeah.
He's got an amp. He looks like a piece of shit. You know what I mean? He looks annoying. And you're like, oh, goddamn, when the fuck this guy's going to be here? Like, because I never want... Like, people live for live music at bars. I loathe live music at bars. I appreciate the guys doing the hustle. I get it. I'm fine with it. I just don't want to listen to it because it's just, as you said, it's like, he gets his fucking amp plugged in. It takes him an hour and 25 minutes to get everything set up. And you're like, this fucking guy. And then, he strums a few times, test. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, he's going to suck.
Yeah.
And then he goes, and then goes, can you take me home? And it's exactly that song. You're like, oh my God. All right.
It's always that song. I've heard that song.
Right.
Like, I've heard that, like, if the title of that song was Stay With Me, it would be, won't you stay with me? Won't you stay with me? It's always the same shit. It's just, it's the generic song template that these kind of guys play. They got a beard that has their fucking lunch all stuck in it. They look like they haven't showered since fucking 2017.
Right, he's wearing a stocking cap even though it's August.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, his feet stink if he takes off his boots. That kind of guy. That's who this is. It's always the same generic shit. And that leads me to believe that he really wrote this stuff. I'd like to see the writing credits, but it's so bad that I'm sure the pro wrestler wrote these awful.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if he had a ghostwriter, if that was him, indeed, that wrote these. So.
Well, look at how bad they are. Of course he wrote them.
All right, this is Amazing Grace. I mean, I don't know if this is a cover of previous Amazing Graces or an original Amazing Grace, but we're going to find out right now. Okay.
Background singers.
I know, the background singers are really bad. They should have just not done those. Like, if they didn't do those, I mean, it wouldn't have helped.
I've had enough.
Okay, all right.
Get it off. Had enough.
You're tapping out?
Remake.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, it's terrible. I don't want to listen to this.
Listen to the drums, though. Dun, dun.
I don't want to listen to the drums.
Well, that's WWE Universal Truth, available on Spotify and Apple Music. So
that's just a straight up cover.
I think so. Yeah, that appears the way. So.
Well, he really put his own spin on it. That's for sure.
He really did. He added those drums. Honestly, the background singers, again, it's not good. It's terrible. The background singers make it worse because it comes across way cheesier with the background singers, right?
Who's the market for this?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure. Because you
Who's
call it
buying
wrestling
this,
gospel,
like, unironically?
but like no gospel people are ever going to listen to this because they don't need this. They have good gospel music to listen to, or they have. I don't even know what the gospel genre is right now, but I'm sure that they don't need this asshole doing gospel songs for them. So it's not them.
Who's purchasing this? Who's purchasing this to listen to it for pleasure?
That's not a family member of Elias?
Yeah.
You know what's incredible is, Paul Levesque, Mr. Triple H. Do you think he listened to one fucking second of this album?
I think he probably did.
I don't think he listened to the whole thing though.
Well, no one know. You listen.
I think he got through. I think he got through a minute and a half of "Amen" parentheses I'm going in, and then decided, you know what, I'm going.
Yeah, you listen to like 30 seconds of each one.
I'm gonna listen to Megadeth instead. So whatever. Paul Levesque. I'm gonna go listen to Poppy again. So
Poppy,
NXT superstar Poppy, Austin '98 pop for Poppy on NXT Halloween. Did you hear that pop this week?
They had
I put the title on
crowd
her.
juice. They had the crowd juiced up for everything. I mean,
I think that Poppy pop was legit. So
what the fuck is a Poppy to begin with?
People jumping up and down. Oh my God, Poppy is here in NXT and she's gonna do a concert.
Am I supposed to know who Poppy is?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who Poppy is either, to be honest. So.
Is this some kind of K-pop artist? Like, what is
it is definitely not a K-pop artist, Poppy. But
well,
Hold on. I looked up Elias Universal Truth because I was going to try to dunk on people that were actually talking about this album and call them out.
Yeah.
The first tweet that comes up, it's just chef's kiss perfect. It says the link. It's a link to the Apple Music link to Universal Truth. And the caption says, "For the drifting soul." For the drifting soul. Okay.
He used to be he's the drifter.
Yeah. The author of this tweet, and a man who I think legitimately would listen to this song, listen to this album, and enjoy it. Yeah. In earnest, enjoy it. At WWE Bray Wyatt.
You know what?
He thinks it's great, right?
Yeah, he's got it on repeat.
Yeah, he's like, Elias, pal. Good. JoJo and I were listening, and we love it. Like, JoJo doesn't love it, by the way, but she's rocking the baby to sleep, and Bray's just like, wow, this is really good, isn't it, hon? He's like, yeah, it's great. Like,
he thinks the lyrics are great.
Right.
Thinks they're deep. He's like, I'm coming home too. That's what Bray Wyatt says.
Right? He loves it.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
He wants Elias to join the Wyatt family, so they could all go home together. Him and Eli Cottonwood, the whole gang.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He loves he loves those lyrics. He might have wrote those lyrics. It's very Bray Wyatt-esque.
I am Elias WWE says, thank you everybody who made this possible. We made history last night in under 24 hours, hitting the #1 spot in our category.
What is it a soundtrack?
#1 iTunes soundtrack chart. This speaks to the power of Elias and the power of Universal Truth that everybody knows deep in their hearts. Oh, if that doesn't tug at the strings, Joe.
Okay, what's the #2?
Yeah, I got to find out what else is on the iTunes soundtrack chart. Let's see if I can actually get to this here.
This reminds me of when we put out the book, and it's like #1 in Japanese pro wrestling books. On
no, we actually a few times ago we were #1 for like a few days. Then we were #2, and then we always hang around the top 5. The wrestling fetish things just destroy us. Those do really well. Like, it's always great. Like, if you don't know, if people that don't know, to kind of peel back the curtain, we do screenshots of those, not because we think it's actually cool that we're like #3 in, Kindle ebooks -- wrestling, because it doesn't really matter again. We just love it that it's like fiery firefighters like fisting, like #7, or like wrestling with desire. We're like, we're next to them. It's incredible.
I gotta read fiery fighters fisting now. Right. That sounds very erotic.
It sounds kind of hot, doesn't it?
Fiery firefighters fisting. I don't think you made that one up. That's got to be real.
I'm almost, yeah, no, I think we've seen all these, on the Kindle store. But yeah, wrestling / individual sports is just, it's very often filled with some pretty, very interesting stuff. Yeah, so it's like a Jim Ross book, Death of WCW, Us, and then, yeah, a bunch of erotica, wrestling erotica. Okay. Yeah. I have the top soundtrack and music charts, which, by the way, what a fucking liars. They're number 6 right now, but that's fine.
So they're not even number 1.
They're not even number 1 anymore because they've been passed up by Frozen 2, which has probably been 1 or 2 in the charts for... When did Frozen 2 come out? You probably know better. You would probably know more than I would about...
I don't fucking know.
Oh, really? Right? You don't know anything about Frozen 2? The 2 kids?
No, they watch it, but I don't remember when it came out, but there's no way it was outselling that. There's not a fucking chance.
The Nightmare Before Christmas, that is number 2 now, which that movie came out in 1994 or whatever. So.
I guess it's Halloween time.
Right. So people are excited again about that. So that's fine. That's fair. Julie and the Phantom Season 1. So apparently a Netflix project that I'm not aware of. The Greatest Showman. It's a movie, I guess. I don't know. I don't watch movies, so I don't know anything about it.
The Greatest Showman?
The Greatest Showman. I don't know. That has Hugh Jackman in it, apparently. So
it's a Hugh Jackman vehicle?
Yeah.
What is this? Is that some theater bullshit?
Probably, yeah. That's
the Greatest Showman. I gotta pull it. No, it's a movie, 2017. We're really up on the pop culture, Rich. Apparently, it's a P.T. Barnum biopic.
Oh, ooh, okay, all right.
So
that sounds kind of interesting, actually. So
no, it doesn't.
Okay.
You'll never watch that.
Then number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix Volume 1.
Yeah, and then Elias.
WWE Universal Truth, the EP. Which, by the way, they're selling the EP for $2.99. The rest of these are $11.99 and $5.99 and $10.99. But yeah, that's fine.
Again, I contend that this is not a soundtrack. That's number 1.
Right, the rest of these are clearly soundtracks.
Yeah, why isn't this just listed under folk or?
Because it's genreless,
like
though. It's just it's your brain, it's your mind, it's your life, Joe. How do you attach a genre to Amen parentheses I'm going in? You can't. It's genreless. It's all things for all people. It's for the drifting soul.
And it's also not even number 1.
No,
but it's not even number 1. They said it was number 1.
Maybe it was yesterday, but now it's not anymore.
So that was a lie too. No, I'm sure that they were full of shit. I don't think it was ever beating Frozen 2.
There's some other the top 10. You have Trolls World Tour coming in at 7. That will probably pass up.
Let me try. Let me tell you about the Trolls World Tour. I have to endure that every day.
Oh,
That's the movie they're watching every single day now. Is Trolls World Tour? Yes. Is West Side Story in the top 10?
West Side Story is not. I was going to say the Rocky Horror Picture Show is vaulting up the list right now. It's at 10. I'd imagine in the next few days, probably it passes up old WWE.
How about
Universal Truth? So,
how about Guys and Dolls? We got a little Guys and Dolls.
Guys and Dolls isn't, but you will find this interesting. Number 18, Grease. Grease is up there at number 18.
Grease. Okay, all right. No Grease 2 though, huh? Okay, fair enough.
So that's the top soundtracks. So, yep.
Little Fiddler on the Roof, maybe?
I don't think Fiddler on the Roof was listed, unfortunately. So
no. Cats, maybe Cats.
I closed out with probably Cats. I don't know, but I would say there's a pretty good chance Cats is probably still up there. So,
the big hit from Cats, Rich, is Memories.
I don't. I've never seen Cats, and I really don't want to. So,
you don't enjoy Memory? That's a big hit. You don't know that one?
No.
You want me to sing it for you?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, please.
Memories. I don't know the next. You know the song. I don't remember the lyrics.
I don't know this. I have zero idea this. I have never seen a second of Cats on fucking.
Listen to me. You don't need to have seen Cats to know the song Memory.
No, I don't. I've never heard
Barbara
of it.
Streisand.
I've literally never heard of it. Never.
That's I believe that's. Am I even correct about that? Yeah, Memories is the big hit from Cats, and Barbara Streisand sings the most popular. Come on, you know that song. You got to know that song. If you don't know that song, Memory all alone in the moonlight. You don't know that song?
I don't.
Yes, you do.
I don't.
Hold on.
I promise. You're gonna play it on your phone.
This right now.
Okay, go ahead. We'll see.
How do you not know Memories from Cats? Hold on.
Okay, all right.
I gotta let the ad play. Hold on.
Do you want me to play it? I have a speaker right here. Do you want me to play it here?
Hold on, I got it.
Okay, all right.
There's another ad. Hold on.
We're plugging this way. Who are these assholes getting a free plug on our show? I don't think I've ever heard this in my life.
Oh, you're a liar.
I don't think I've ever heard it. Why would I have heard this?
This is not the Barbara Streisand version, but this is just some dope from the play. But
how long is this going to go on for? I've never heard it.
Listen. You legit.
Okay,
it kind of sounds
okay. All right, it kind of sounds familiar now.
You're gonna get buried by everyone for not knowing.
I don't care.
This cat is ridiculous, though. That's singing this. Let me give it a Streisand
How is this
version.
cat ridiculous? How is the cat ridiculous?
It's a ridiculous looking cat. I mean, it doesn't really even look like a cat. That might be. Is that from the movie? Maybe that movie was atrocious, from what I understand. No, you listen. That's Barbara Streisand. You got to know that. People are going to be very. What are we doing here anyway? What is this?
No, this show is. It's not great. Yeah, we're an hour in, and I don't know what the hell we've done. We've bitched about Kenny Omega and listened to Elias, and now we're talking about Cats. So it's Have you seen Cats? Are you a big Cats fan? Did you go to Broadway and see Cats?
I've never been to Broadway, and I never will. It's not my thing. But I'm just saying, like, remember that's a big time song. You need to know that. What about Hamilton? Had to be up there, right? Don't people aren't?
Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see it on the list, surprisingly. So maybe it's finally after 4 years falling off the list. I think people are excited about Halloween, so I think those Halloween soundtracks are coming up, and then like Frozen and Trolls just are always up there probably because
Hamilton fucking stinks. You couldn't drag me to Hamilton. Who cares about Alexander Hamilton? I mean, who really? I mean, I'm gonna watch a play about Alexander Hamilton. I mean, why? Why on earth would I ever do that? A musical about Alexander Hamilton. How the hell did that blow up and get so big to begin with?
It did, man. I walked by the theater in Chicago that has it, and there's like on any given time, there's 100 people waiting outside. I don't even know what they're doing. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know if they have tickets. They're trying to buy tickets. They're trying to get in. I have no idea. There's just always 100 people outside the theater waiting to do something near the theater. I don't know what.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I just walk around them and go, all right. Cool. Go eat some pizza.
I mean, here's the problem with Hamilton. As soon as I say, well, hold on a second. What's that about? Oh, it's about Alexander Hamilton. You lost me. That's it.
It's a hip hop version of the story of Alexander Hamilton, though, Joe.
Rich, I don't care. It could be any version you want. It's Alexander Hamilton. Why would I have any interest in that whatsoever? Like, I don't give a shit.
More of a Burr guy. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't care about either one of those men. Okay, so it's like, I don't know, but people love that shit. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Is that the fella's name?
I think so. Yeah. I'm trying to think of all the plays I've ever been to in my life. It won't take too long to remember them. I did see Book of Mormon. I got dragged to that. That was fine. That might be. I'm trying to think of other ones I've been to that I wasn't forced to for a school reason. You know what I mean? Or like you're dating somebody and they're in the play and you got to go type stuff. But I'm sure Joe didn't date any
theater types. Nah, never. I saw a community theater rendition of Footloose once.
Ooh, okay. How was that?
It was horrendous. It's terrible. What do you mean, how was it? You really had to ask?
I think I saw Annie Got Your Gun. Or what is it? What's it called? Annie Got Your Gun? Isn't that the name of it? Or Annie Got a Gun, right?
Huh?
Annie Got a Gun, I think. Is that the name of the one? I've seen that, I think. I got dragged to that. That was, I don't know, Annie Oakley. Buffalo Bill,
Annie
Wild
Oakley?
West. Yeah, it was. I didn't get your gun. It was pretty terrible. I don't know. It's a lady in a hat shooting people.
No, when I was in high school,
going on, so
Nah, when I was in high school, I had my summer job was scooping Italian ice for an Italian ice stand. Okay, are you familiar with the Italian ice? Or is that
I'm aware of what Italian ice is, Joe. Yes.
No, some people don't. In Texas, no one knows what it is.
That's true.
So
yeah, that's right. No, I am very well aware of the difference, and it's not a fucking. Some people think Italian ice is like, a slushy or like a snow cone, and it's not. It's not at all.
No. Okay, so that's why I'm asking. I don't know. Some parts of the country they don't know what Italian ice is.
I'm well aware.
So
Unfortunately, I'm well aware because I love it and I'm fat and then I eat it too much. So no, I know.
My summer job was scooping Italian ice, and we had to. One of the stands we had set up was at the community theater. So I saw the community theater performance of Footloose about 17 times that summer. And then it switched over halfway through the summer to Dracula. So those are the only two, live theater experiences that I've had. And yeah, obviously they were both terrible. I mean, they were irredeemably bad. I mean, people flubbing lines, and it was horrible.
Trying to live their dream. It's like indie wrestling, Joe. They're trying to live their dream out there. Come on.
Yeah, I guess so. And maybe it's just because I saw
there wasn't any WrestleMania main eventers. There wasn't any Broadway main eventers at that community theater. Doing Footloose.
Yeah.
There wasn't a guy that you just immediately were like, that guy's gonna be something. He's got it. There wasn't an it guy out there.
I don't know if I could name 5 like current Broadway stars to begin with.
I don't know.
Like
one.
Like who are the big Tony winners this year? Like,
You're asking me. Yes. All right, Joe. Oh, I never thought you'd ask. Okay. I saw Wizard of Oz. I saw Wizard of Oz live too once. That was.
It seems like you've seen a lot of plays, Rich.
I think I have. Now I'm kind of thinking in my head. I feel like I have seen quite a few. So.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of this shit. So I think you are a secret theater head.
Is that what they call it? Theater head?
I don't know. I mean,
there's probably a term for it, right? That we just don't know.
I mean,
like, instead of a barricade slapper, that's like, I don't know. I don't even know.
What's wrong with theater head? I mean, if you like
theater head, no, it works. I just think there's probably already a term. You know what I mean? And we're just not doing it properly. But
I'd rather be a theater head than a sneaker head. That one I'll never understand.
Oh, the sneakerheads? Yeah, that's wild, dude. I went to I was at a shop, like kind of like a strip mall or whatever last weekend, and the line outside of the Nike store, I'm not kidding, Joe, was 500 people deep. You couldn't park. We couldn't go. We couldn't do anything because there was, and I have no earthly idea what they were waiting for, what shoe was out, no idea whatsoever. 500 people, and it was cold. It was raining. It was cold. It was just miserable. And these people looked like they'd been out there for hours on end. And I'm just like, all right, that's cool.
Maybe they had Hamilton tickets there.
Maybe they did. Only redeemable at the Nike store. So, I don't know. It looked like the same misery that the Hamilton people are, as they're waiting to get in and or buy tickets or whatever they're trying to do. So why would you have to sit outside to get in? Like that, that never mind. Okay. Anyway, you ready to talk about like actual stuff instead of whatever we're talking about now?
Hamilton can't be that good to where people need to like desperately wait outside for these tickets for hours on end. Like, it can't. How good could it possibly be? Like, even by theater standards.
I guess we're gonna have to find out. Someone's gonna have to buy tickets for us, and then you and I, Joe.
It's on the Disney Plus, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's on Disney Plus now. You're gonna watch Hamilton?" I'm like, "No, no." They're like, "Why not?" I'm like, "No." A better question is why.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
why? Like, why on earth would I ever watch that? Ever? Of course, the answer is no. So it's like, I turn it around. I'm like, I don't know. You're going to watch ECW Hardcore Heaven 95?
Right.
And they're like,
Amazon Prime has old UWFI. You going to watch that?
Yeah. They're like,
Volcan?
No. They're like, why would I watch that? And I'm like, well, that's now you understand. Like,
Tamura's quest to score higher points on that given night. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, now you get it. I have no fucking interest.
Right.
And never will, for as long as I live, have any interest in watching that. So it's like, no. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch through Sopranos for the 9th time. That's what I'm going to watch. I'm not going to watch Hamilton. Right. It's never happening. Okay? So, all right. Anyway,
Yeah,
this is a
it.
wrestling show.
It is a wrestling show. It is a wrestling show, presumably. But Joe, I have one more question for you. It's not related to Elias. It's not related to Elias. I promise.
If you're gonna start playing Elias songs again, I gotta check out. I can't.
It's not. Well, it's not the worst idea to play as background noise to this. But Joe, what season is it?
Oh, I know the answer to this one. It's winning season.
No, it doesn't say that, but we'll go with it anyway. It is winning season. Between the NFL, college football, and more, there is no shortage of games to watch. And with thousands of lines available on all your favorite sports and events, you can turn the game day into payday, and that's with mybookie.ag. If you're the type of guy who likes to back the big favorites, Joe, as you love to do, consider putting a couple in a parlay for a much bigger payout. Not only do parlays make meaningless games exciting, but more importantly, they give you a chance to turn ordinary bets into real money makers. But again, though, the important part, I'm joking aside, you're an underdog guy, right? You love playing the dogs. Is that correct?
Take the points.
Take the points. What bets have you did? What did you do last weekend? Did you do pretty well?
I laid low last weekend. I had one play last weekend. I hit it on Monday night, but it wasn't. It wasn't a line. I played under a certain amount of yardage for a receiver on the Bears, and I hit that play. Otherwise, I didn't play anything. I wish I had a more exotic story for you.
That's a real scumbag. Yeah, that's a real scumbag bet you made there. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
you bet nothing, but I don't think who was the Bears receiver that you
Allen Robinson
bet the under on. You bet the under on him.
Under 72.5 yards.
that's a real scumbag hours bet there, but I appreciate that. I like that of all the options that you have. This mybookie.ag's got every single game, every single line you could ever want, presidential, TV, any sport going on in the world, and you see Allen Robinson and go, yeah, he's going to get under 72.5 yards. I'm going to put that down.
Well, I mean, I figured Jalen Ramsey would be shadowing him all game, and I knew the Rams would put pressure on.
Yeah, and the Bears stink, so that's a good bet.
Dopey Nick Foles. So I have no respect for Nick Foles. None. I mean, so he had 70 yards. I mean, I had to sweat it out. But listen, Rich, a win's a win. It doesn't matter if you hit your play by 2.5 yards or 50 yards. The money comes in, the cash register, cha-ching, and you're a winner. It's all that matters.
Yeah, money's all the same. Money's all the same. If it's 70 or 15 yards, doesn't matter. So again, don't forget the underdogs. They have a ton of value. The thing about the NFL and college football are that underdogs are never really dogs on Saturday and Sunday. Every team truly has a chance to win, and you do too. Game spread, championship futures, player prop bets, all that stuff is out there. It's never too late to get in on the action and start turning your sports knowledge into actual cash in your wallet, just as you did there. You understand Jalen Ramsey, Nick Foles stinks, the Bears stink, and you've made some money there. Everybody else can do that as well. You sign up at mybookie.ag, and when you do, you use our promo code VOW. That's VOW, the promo code, to claim a deposit match dollar for dollar all the way up to $1,000. So we've explained this over the last few weeks, but if you put $1,000 in, MyBookie, for some reason, will also give you $1,000. If you put $500 in, MyBookie will match that complete and give you $500. A dollar for dollar match in the deposits, but only if you use that promo code VOW. It's a bonus designed to give you a little help and a head start on your winning season. That, once again, is promo code VOW to claim your bonus when you make your deposit. Stacked UFC cards, presidential prop bets, all the major sports and more. Sign up today to begin your winning season exclusively at mybookie.ag. And don't forget the promo code VOW. So, all right. Ready to talk wrestling?
Yeah.
Kind of? Sort of. You want to WWE? Oh, no, actually, no, we got an unfortunate. Yeah, I know. Well, before we get to Hell in a Cell, I completely forgot it. Thank God we didn't forget about this. An unfortunate bit of news from this week. The passing of Tracy Smothers, Nashville, Italy's finest resident ever, Tracy Smothers. What are your memories of Tracy Smothers? Wild-eyed Southern boy, Tracy Smothers.
Oh, I watched his entire career.
Freddie Joe Floyd, as many articles said. Former WWE wrestler Freddie Joe Floyd passes away, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I watched basically his entire career start to finish in real time, with the exception of some of the super early years, like when he got started in Memphis and stuff like that. Like, obviously, in 1984, I wasn't watching live Memphis to see, Tracy Smothers doing jobs. But, starting from the late 80s on, I pretty much watched his entire career play out. So, I mean, I can walk you through his whole career if you want.
Yeah, do it, because you know, I my entry point into Tracy Smothers was ECW. As a member of the FBI, and I didn't quite get the joke immediately. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, that guy doesn't really look Italian, but I'm sure he is. Like, why would they say he's a fully blooded Italian if he wasn't? Like, I was like 11 or 12 when I first started watching, you know, ECW. So I didn't quite get the joke there with the fully blooded Italians, but that was my entry point of, yes, go ahead.
JT Smith wasn't your tip off?
No, I don't think JT Smith was in it. I think I came in during the,
Tommy Rich.
I don't know if those guys were all in there when I'm like a late 97, early 98 FBI guy. Were they still all there at that time?
JT Smith may not have been. So you were Little Guido, Tracy Smothers, Tommy Rich.
Yes.
Ulf Herman.
Ulf should have been a good giveaway. Yes.
Herman the German. Yeah.
I did, yeah. But you know, when you saw Big Sally and Little Guido or Nunzio, he was Guido, right? Yeah. Like, yeah, Guido and Big Sally, like, you don't need anybody else. You're like, yeah, they're fully blooded Italians. Look at those guys. Like, they clearly are. I had no idea. Didn't matter what the other guys were, the peripheral guys or whatever. Look at there's a big giant Italian guy and a small Italian guy on his shoulders. I'm good. I got it. I get the joke, but I didn't get the joke, actually. So
yeah, it was originally JT Smith and Little Guido. And, you know, they would come to the ring to Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. Do you need me to play that one for you?
Oh, no, I know that one. Yeah, I know that one. But yeah, JT Smith was a pretty good giveaway that he may not have been fully blooded Italian, but that we know of. We don't know for sure, but yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, but then JT Smith, left I guess stopped working for ECW after a while, and then Tracy Smothers and Tommy Rich came in. Yeah, the idea was obviously that they weren't really Italian, but. No, I mean, he got started in Memphis, and he worked a little for Mid-South as a job guy as well. But where he got his first big break was in the late 80s, probably 87-ish, 88-ish in Florida, because that's where he hooked up with Steve Armstrong and formed the Southern Boys. So their big feud in Florida was with the New Breed, who I know you're very familiar with.
Yeah.
So they feuded with the New Breed, and there were some other teams that ended up with Crockett in Florida at that time, like underneath teams like the Mod Squad, teams like that. And was it the Mod Squad? I know for a fact they wrestled the New Breed a bunch of times, and I'm pretty sure, Mod Squad were in Florida at that time as well. I just pulled that up to confirm it. I don't need people jumping in our Twitter mentions 6 days from now when they listen to this. So that's where the Southern Boys formed. And then New Breed went to Crockett, right? Around what? I guess that would have been what, Rich? Like 88, 89 where New Breed.
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't, 88, 89, somewhere in that range. I forget exactly the year, but it was definitely the last vestige of the NWA before everything got moved over.
And the Southern Boys went to Continental. And obviously Steve Armstrong had connections in Continental already because obviously being part of the Armstrong family. So he had been there before, and he went and formed this tag team with Smothers, came back with Smothers as the Southern Boys, and they got a pretty good push in Continental for a while. That would have been around 1988. And in fact, we talked about a match they had against the Nightmares in Continental on this show. Remember, I made you watch that match.
Mm-hmm.
The Southern Boys versus the Nightmares, which is a very underrated tag match from Continental. I don't remember. It may have been on YouTube or Daily Motion. Who knows if it's still floating around out there. But a great match with two very underrated tag teams. The Southern Boys eventually would end up in WCW, so they would gain some notoriety. The Nightmares, though, they were a Continental team. They wrestled a little bit in Memphis as underneath guys, but, they got their biggest push in Continental. But very good team, the Nightmares. Very underrated, ahead of their time with a lot of their offense. And the Southern Boys were an excellent tag team because Smothers was a great worker.
Yeah, tremendous.
And so was Steve Armstrong. Those guys were really good workers, and they were an excellent team. And they got booked in New Japan throughout 88 and 89. And they didn't get, they weren't pushed in New Japan, but they worked a lot of tours in New Japan in 88 and 89. And Smothers continued to get booked in New Japan through 1990 without Armstrong. He would go back as a single. And then later on in 90 is when WCW brought in the Southern Boys as a tag team, which is probably where a lot of our listeners and really most people would have picked. That's where you would have picked up with Tracy Smothers' career. That's where he was most visible for the first time. And arguably where he's probably still his most high-profile run is probably that Southern Boys / Young Pistols run in WCW, because they were there for about 3 or 4 years. And, about halfway through the run, they changed their name from the Southern Boys to the Young Pistols, and, they toned down the Southern imagery, and they build them from Wyoming. They changed their name to the Young Pistols and started building them from Wyoming, and sort of made them like a Western, like an old school, like an old West act.
Yeah, they were like the Smoking Guns. They were basically the Smoking Guns before the Smoking Guns were the Smoking Guns.
Very similar, instead of being Confederate sympathizers. And I don't think it was because, now being a Confederate sympathizer and rocking the stars and bars, that's not going to fly anywhere. Because, 30 years ago, it was a little different. Now you can't do that gimmick because, society, evolves and changes, mostly for the better. And I don't think they changed from the Southern Boys, the wild-eyed Southern Boys, to the Young Pistols because to a WCW house show in the Meadowlands. And one of the matches was the Southern Boys against Arn Anderson and Barry Windham of the Four Horsemen. And the Southern Boys, and I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it's relevant today. So the Southern Boys were the baby faces in this match because they didn't turn heel until they were the Young Pistols. So, but New Jersey and the Northeast, it's a crowd full of smarks. We're all Horsemen fans. So the Horsemen were the de facto baby faces there because we all cheered for the Horsemen. Now, 5 minutes into this match, the wrestlers in the ring recognized that this was going to be a Horseman town. And there were Horseman towns all over the place because the Horsemen were cool. So in a lot of these towns WCW would go to, even though the Horsemen were heels, the fans would cheer for the Horsemen. And this was New Jersey in 1991. No one was rallying behind the wild-eyed Southern.
Yeah, right.
Hey, so we were all rooting for the Horsemen. But they were such good workers, the four of them, that they recognized it very early on in the match. And they changed the way they worked the bout, right? One spot that I'll never forget, it's burned into my brain. I don't remember if it was Smothers or Armstrong, but they got whipped into the ropes. And Arn ran down the apron and lifted up his knee. You know that spot?
Oh, of
and
course.
Then the babyface, yeah. And the babyface eats the knee while Wyndham's distracting the ref. But the crowd erupted. Like, we went nuts. And Arn turned around and he did like that little, not a fist pump, but you know the little fist pump deal where you pull your fist back next to your waist? That move. You know the move I'm talking about?
Yeah, like, I got it. I did it. Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm doing it now. Nobody can see. I'm sitting, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now.
Form a fist and just pull it back next to your waist. Like, yeah.
I mean, do it kind of quickly,
so
though.
Arn,
You can't do it. You can't be, like, very pronounced. It's got to be just kind of like a little, yeah.
No, it's like 3 or 4 quick ones, right? 3 or 4 quick ones. So Arn lands this knee to Smothers' back, and then he does like the little fist pump, and it was the biggest pop of the night. So from that point forward, it's like, and then, Smothers and Armstrong were good enough workers to where, they're flipping off the crowd mid-match. They're doing that move. The move where you extend your one arm over the other arm that's crossed, like the up yours maneuver with the hands, right? So they're doing that to the crowd and playing up to the fact that this crowd was just going to cheer for the Horsemen that night. And that was easily the best match of the night. I'll pull up the card later and we'll read off the card. But I think, getting back to my point, I think they changed their name because it was just one of those things where they wanted to be national and the wild-eyed Southern Boys just weren't going to play everywhere. You know what I mean? So the Young Pistols was a bit more palatable of a name, but they ended up turning them heel anyway. But for most of that run, they faced the Freebirds a million times. They faced the Freebirds on like 3 or 4 different Clash of the Champions. But their most famous match, of course, was the Great American Bash 90 against the Midnight Express.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this was the Eaton and Stan Lane version of the Midnight Express.
Correct. Yeah, this is an all-time great match,
and that's a match that everybody listening should go watch.
Yeah, if you're listening to this right now,
all-time
WWE Network, I'm sure you could find it illegally if you really want to, but it's on the WWE Network, easy to find, Great American Bash 90. Go out of your way to watch it, for sure. I mean, just do it. Just after the show, tomorrow, whatever, do it. It is all-time great tag match, and holds up as well too. I've seen it. I watched it many years ago, and I watched it not that long ago, and it's still fucking great. It's not like, oh well, you had to be there. Oh, 1990. Things were different. No, it's still good today in 2020. I promise.
No, it's a great match, off the charts heat, all of that. But then they go heel. The Young Pistols go heel, and by 92, Armstrong leaves first. And he leaves Smothers behind because Smothers then stuck around for a while as the young pistol Tracy Smothers, but he was basically used as an enhancement guy at that point. So he didn't stick around much longer. Armstrong left for WWF, where he had his Lance Cassidy run, which obviously was not a success. So that was through late 92 and early 93 for Armstrong. And that was really it for Steve Armstrong. He went back to WCW. He went to Smoky Mountain, which is where Smothers ended up as well. Smothers went to Smoky Mountain straight from WCW and got a substantial push there. He was a top guy.
He was a big deal. Yeah, there's a lot of, if you go back and watch any Smoky Mountain, and again, people always ask, oh, is it on the network? And there is some Smoky Mountain on the network, but don't get excited. It's like a bunch of random episodes that feature Chris Jericho, and that's it. Like it's the catalog that they have is not very good. For Smoky Mountain, because I know, like, I sometimes fall into that trap too, where I'm scrolling through WWE Network and I see Smoky Mountain, I'm like, all right, here we go, and it's just like, no, it's just random episodes, meaningless episodes, not a bunch in a row. It was, they did a Chris Jericho thing, and then they popped up a few Smoky Mountain episodes on there, but yeah, do not get excited when you see Smoky Mountain, but there is other ways to watch the run of Smoky Mountain, and there's some really good stuff with Tracy Smothers there, like big time stuff too. He's main eventing with Chris Candido. He's a big part of that. I mean not like, fame wise, not his biggest run, but like I would say probably his top run is like in terms of position on the card. Would you agree?
No, it's his biggest push without question.
Right.
His biggest push without question is Smoky Mountain from 92 to about, I guess, when they closed. And again, Armstrong left and went to WWF. So Smothers ended up in Smoky first, but Armstrong ended up having a little Smoky. He came back. He ended up in Smoky Mountain too after the WWF thing didn't really work. But they never really came back together to form that tag team. But yeah, definitely the biggest push of Tracy Smothers' career. Smoky Mountain folds. Now, in between, he worked a lot of Japan, Smothers. He worked for a lot of the deathmatch groups. He worked in All Japan. And remember, he had worked in New Japan early on in his career. So he really worked all over the place in Japan, too. This was not a guy who ever struggled to get bookings.
No. I remember one time. I remember one time popping up and seeing just like a random ass, like it was something 1993. I forget exactly the month or whatever. I'm sure you can find it if you look for it. Well, I don't know anymore. So many things have gotten taken down as of late. But I remember, as I was kind of making my All Japan rewatch, a match. Yeah, okay, I found it. September 5th, 1993. Jun Akiyama, Kenta Kobashi, and Misawa versus Stan Hansen, Ted DiBiase, and Tracy Smothers. It's just like,
he pops up like he had those All Japan tours in the mid 90s, and he had all those New Japan tours in the late 80s, early 90s. And then he also worked for like IWA Japan. And
right.
Later on he went to FMW and he worked for Wing, and he did a lot of the deathmatch stuff too. So, he was in demand there in the early to mid 90s all over the world, in between those, the Smoky Mountain run. So, and he was a big deal in Smoky, and, he had the tag team with Dirty White Boy. I think he feuded with Dirty White Boy. He was in the title mix a lot of the time, but then it folded, and he ended up being one of the guys who Cornette got booked into WWF. as the television enhancement guys, along with Dirty White Boy, who became T.L. Hopper, and Alex Porto, who was the Pug, and Bill Irwin as the Goon, and Smothers came in as Freddie Joe Floyd. So it's just a jobber role, and it didn't last. And from there, he ended up in ECW, and that's where, Rich picked up on his career with the FBI thing. And really, he was a regular for ECW, a full-timer, working every show, basically for the next 3 years. Didn't stick around. Well, there was also a Memphis run after Smokey closed, because he came in with some of the Smokey guys and did sort of like a pseudo invasion angle. And that was kind of a big deal. And so there was that Memphis run that I shouldn't overlook either, before he ended up with WWF as Freddie Joe Floyd, which was just, like I said, just a jobber role like the rest of those guys. Not really totally unlike the Lance Cassidy role for Steve Armstrong a few years earlier, although I think they had plans to push him. He just never caught on.
Right.
I mean, Steve Armstrong, that was just a bad fit for 1992 WWF, Steve Armstrong, and the Lance Cassidy gimmick, it just didn't work, and he didn't last. And so Smothers went to ECW, and from there, Armstrong went to WCW, where he teamed with his brother Scott on all of the B and C shows for like 5-6 years. I mean, they had steady employment for a long time, Scott and Steve Armstrong. I mean, they were on every episode of like WCW Pro and Worldwide, and they never got pushed. And they'd get on Nitro every now and then to do jobs. But Armstrong went in that direction, and Smothers went to ECW, and really they parted ways forever at that point. So he had the ECW run Smothers did with the FBI that we talked about earlier. And he would make sporadic appearances in WWF. Every now and then he'd be on like Shotgun Saturday Night.
Yeah, Jacked, Velocity, like that level is where I remember seeing him a few times pop up.
And he wasn't treated like a total jobber. He would, basically what he was is Freddie Joe Floyd, like a jobber to the stars type when he would pop up. I saw a really interesting match on Twitter where he wrestled Michael Hayes in 1999 in WWF.
Oh, wow. Weird.
And well, what it was on one of the C shows, and it was Michael Hayes when he was managing the Hardys.
Yeah, he was wearing the 6 sizes too tight shirt and his weird, khaki pants.
Yeah, and the commentary, it was Michael Hayes getting warmed up because it was going to be Michael Hayes and the Hardys versus the Acolytes on the pay-per-view this Sunday in a handicap match. So this was Michael Hayes' warm-up bout.
Yeah, trying to get loose, shake the cobwebs off. I like that. That's good storytelling. That's cool.
And they had a hell of a match. And you would expect them to. I mean, Tracy Smothers may have wrestled Michael Hayes more than anybody else in his career, because they didn't just wrestle the Freebirds in WCW a million times on TV. They wrestled them on all the house shows too. Like if you check Cage Match, they wrestled the Freebirds every night for like 3 years. I mean, it's crazy.
That might have been a shoot. Michael Hayes needed to get the rust off, so he made them call in Tracy so they could work, 7 minutes in front of a crowd. I wonder if that was actually legit, or they just had him and it happened to be a coincidence. It's got to be that Michael was like, "Hey, call Tracy. He'll work me out."
I wouldn't doubt at all that he handpicked his opponent.
Right. Or that, they'd been working, before, doing, not necessarily dark matches, but before everybody comes, getting in the ring, bouncing around a little bit, and then they said, fuck it, put it on TV. Put it on Jacked. Who cares? And then they threw it on Jacked. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt at all that was a handpicked opponent. So he finishes up with ECW, and he didn't stay till the end, so probably like 99. And then, he bounces around. I mean, he wrestles a couple more WWE shots, and, he goes back to Japan. That's where he wrestled for FMW. And then he sort of had this second part of his career over the last 20 years, and he was really wrestling up until last year, where he was just this indie guy, like the IWA Mid-South stuff for all of those years, where he worked with CM Punk and Cabana and all those guys that were at IWA Mid-South getting their career started. And he was a stalwart there. He formed the tag team with Chris Hamrick, which, you know, is another one of the famous tag. He's a great tag wrestler, Tracy Smothers. And it wasn't just with the Southern Boys. I mean, all throughout his career, whether it was Dirty White Boy or Chris Hamrick, he was always in these solid tag teams. And that tag team with Hamrick was an indie, you know, stalwart tag team for many years. And then, you know, the second the second decade of the 2000s. We're in the third decade of the 2000s. It's pretty crazy.
I know, it's don't remind me.
But the second decade of the 2000s was really, he was probably best known for the AIW stuff in Cleveland because he worked for them a ton. I mean, he worked everywhere on the indies, but, you know, the AIW stuff, the Juggalo Championship Wrestling or Championship Wrestling, you know, he was a regular there. And, you know, sporadic IWA Mid-South shows, and really right up to last year, just an indie. And that's where a lot of the younger wrestlers today and a lot of the guys who came up through the indies over the last couple of decades really have an affinity for him because he worked with all those guys when they were kids. And Smothers was well known for being extremely helpful and doing whatever it took to help people get over and work with them and get the best match possible out of them. And he never stopped working. I mean, his major league career was over, but he worked all those indies over the last 20 years and always had steady work and was instrumental in a ton of those careers for a lot of those guys when they were getting started, particularly in IWA Mid-South.
Yeah. I mean, I saw him in a GCW show last year, I want to say. Yeah, end of last year. He was just at like the Nick Gage Invitational 4. It's just fucking Tracy Smothers. It was like Marco Stunt versus Tracy Smothers. And like, he never won. Like I probably saw him in indies around this area for, 10 years. And he never once won, ever. He didn't want to win, I'm sure. Like, he's not one of those old guys that's like, nah, I gotta, he was like, yeah, sure, boom, let's go. And they were never like, the other thing that I always remember about this too is it wasn't just, hey, here's an old guy that you might remember, and then he does, 2 spots and he's out of there. Like, he would go 12 minutes with these guys, 13 minutes. He would have like good, like, even until, like, I saw him last year against Marco Stunt. He was still solid as fuck. Like, even until his final days, he was still really good. I saw him in a Revolution Pro Wrestling, the old Billy Corgan setup as well. I remember that. He bounced. He was there maybe 1 or 2 times. I saw him, like IWA Mid-South. I saw him once or twice. AEW, I remember seeing him a few times too. He never won. He just always lost. But yeah, he put some really good efforts in there. He wasn't a guy living off of nostalgia. He was going there to work, and he was going there to try to put guys over and make guys better. And that's why he has so much respect. And that's why very few times you get what we got, I think it was Tuesday or whatever when the news came out, is everybody, no matter what company, what generation they were, whether they're your older indie guys, your newer indie guys, your current indie guys, whatever, everybody was just like, yeah, dude, here's the story I have about Tracy. Here's when he like took us to the back and explained this, or here's when he did, like, it was really cool to see that outpouring of support for him, because I don't know if I necessarily knew how important he was to so many guys. I mean, it makes sense why he would be, but it wasn't until you saw every single person say, oh, here's how important he was to me being what I am today. And it was really, really cool.
And just the hilarious stories. I mean, the guy was just a classic pro wrestler. It's just
yeah, he couldn't do anything else with his life. Like, there was no other job Tracy Smothers could have ever done than be a professional wrestler, which is perfect. That's what you want.
Yeah, and I mean, you just scan Twitter and just read the stories, and they're fucking hilarious. I wasted half a day yesterday getting nothing done, just reading all of these different, just hilarious Tracy Smothers stories. The guy's just legendary with a lot of these stories, and I'm pretty sure, isn't he he was the where Larry Sweeney came up with 12 large, correct? Wasn't it they got stiffed by some promoter somewhere and Tracy Smothers wasn't having it. So he went in the office with the guy and shook him down and came out of the office and the rest of the guys were like, did you get our money? And he holds up a $10 bill and 2 singles and says 12 large, brother.
I don't know. I didn't know that. That's incredible.
That's where 12 large came from. It came from Tracy Smothers beating the shit out of this or intimidating this promoter and taking whatever he had on him. The guy had $12, and he took it out of his pockets and he came out and they left with the guy's $12. I think that I'm almost positive that's where that story came from.
We have somebody in the chat room. I don't remember this, but they say here I think it's Jose Corona is his name. Tracy would do wrestling podcasts while delivering pizzas.
Yeah, someone told.
God,
yeah,
that's awesome. That rules so much.
Because he famously worked for that restaurant. Like that, he made a thing of that. And someone told a story. He said Smothers told a story. I read it. I don't remember who tweeted it, but he delivered a pizza once, and someone recognized him. I'm sure it happened a lot. And the guy was they got in a conversation. He said he wrestled Stone Cold Steve Austin or whatever, and the kid said to him, "Did you beat Stone Cold?" And he's like, "Brother, if I beat Stone Cold, I wouldn't be delivering you this pizza."
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
You know,
God,
so that's
great.
it's a kind of sense of humor. You know, the stories are just all of them are just as funny as that one. I mean, it's just the guy was just, you know, just legendary stories, and everybody who met him has one or has 10 of these Tracy Smothers stories. But I hope I have the right guy, but I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive it was Tracy Smothers with the 12 large story. And that's how that became a thing. But I'll have to research it before we upload the show. We'll just cut that out if it wasn't him.
right.
But,
So we don't get a barrage of
yeah, but I'm pretty positive that was Smothers though with the 12 large. But yeah, there's a million stories out there, you know, just like those. I read another one today where he goes up to the guy he's working with that night. And he's like, "All right, well, this is what we're going to do. Just follow my lead. I'll make you look like $1 million." Oh, it was Nate Webb who tweeted this out. And someone goes, "Tracy, this guy, he's deaf." So Smothers then starts shouting, "All right, well, I didn't know you were deaf, brother. But this is what we're going to do. Just a total pro wrestler.
Just pro wrestler,
you know?
yeah. There's no other way to describe him other than a pro wrestler, because that's, most other people would not react that way, but pro wrestlers would 100% across the board act that way, which is perfect. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were deaf, brother. Here's what we're gonna do.
Right.
You know, shouting at him. You know, and the Effie one where he says he's doing like he's like exercising.
Yeah, he's
on
doing
the chair,
dips. He was doing dips on a chair. Yeah.
He's doing dips and the chair breaks. So he throws the chair across the room and he starts muttering about how the chair isn't a worker, and he starts storming off. You know, that's just wrestler shit. Like if you've ever talked to a wrestler, that's especially these old school guys. You know, but you know, and that's why he endeared himself to everyone. This is one of those guys where it's like if you were, you know, on Twitter yesterday. It was yesterday, right? I guess we're recording
Tuesday. I forget what day. Yeah, by the time most of you guys are listening, it was Tuesday or Wednesday is when most of these were coming out.
He died on Tuesday, but Wednesday is when it was announced that he passed away, I believe. So, you know, it's just universal praise, and oddly enough, mostly from this generation of wrestlers, because he worked all those indie shots for the last 20 years. You know, it wasn't a bunch of tributes just from like the guys from his era. You know, it was people who are stars now. You know, your Kevin Owens and your CM Punks and people like that who came up with him while he was in a totally different time in his career on the back end. You know, working all these indie shows with these guys and just making a huge impression on everybody. So, and you know, Tracy Smothers, and you know what's funny, and I know we just recently told this story too. You know, we've only spent money on advertising twice in the history of this show, in the history of our website. One of those times was a Tracy Smothers shoot interview,
right, yeah.
where we got our watermark and we paid whatever it was, $25 or whatever it was, to have our watermark logo on the Tracy Smothers shoot interview. And the only other time we paid for advertising on this show was another legend, Joe Gagney, his Fun Time Arcade. Those are the only other ads we ever bought. You know, a podcasting legend, the godfather of wrestling podcasting, Joe Gagney, and Tracy Smothers, who obviously was built from Nashville, Italy during the FBI run in ECW, which is where Rich mentioned that before, in case anybody was confused, because, you know, in Nashville, in Italy, and, you know, when when Ulf Herman was part of FBI, he was billed from Hamburg, Italy.
right.
And, you know, so, you know, but there's 12-year-old Rich not getting the joke.
Yeah, like, oh man, weird. All right, whatever. I didn't know there was a Nashville in Italy. That's cool.
Yeah. So
Tracy looks like he could be Italian, right? Like, you know.
All right, so we've been corrected on the Tracy Smothers 12 large thing.
Oh no. Okay, that's good. Okay, what is it?
So Grant Akuma tells us
Oh, what does
Definitely
he
rely
know?
on-
Oh, he wouldn't know. I'm just kidding. That's actually literally the best person to explain that to us. So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, he says it was actually Tom Brandy, and it was how much he made on merch that night. so Sweeney
Salvatore
asked him-
Sincere, which is a nice connection between the FBI. So I could see why you get confused there. That's fine.
So Sweeney asked him how much he made on merch, and he said 12 large, brother, and held up the 10 to 2 single. So that's actually a better story.
That's a
than
much
Tracy
better
Smothers
story. Yeah.
beating up the promoter. So why would I get Tracy Smothers and Tom Brandy?
I said
mixed up?
Salvatore Sincere. You were getting your stereotypical Italian characters mixed up.
I don't think that would be it though. I think that doesn't make any sense. I you know what it is? I must have heard an incorrect version of that, maybe like an urban legend version of it. Because I don't think I would mix up Tom Brandy and Tracy Smothers, and I also wouldn't mix up selling merch with a shady promoter. Like, there's way too many details that are off on this. So I must have just heard a bad version of the story. But yeah, no doubt about it. Take Grant Akuma's word over mine.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think he would probably know a lot better than Joe Lanza. Yes, yeah, he might have been there at that show.
Yeah.
So I think he would probably know. Yeah,
I don't know any of these people. He knows them. So we're gonna go with the Tom Brandy version.
Yeah, that's fine.
But,
I like the Tom Brady version too. I could see. I mean, I'm amazed that Tom Brady sold $12 in merch on an indie show. But hey, you know what? Good for him.
Yeah.
Like, who bought an 8x10 of Tom Brady? You know, it was like, oh, sweet. Like,
I mean, maybe if he's working as Sal Sincere, Tom Brandy, and the Patriot all in one night, how does he even handle that? Like, does he stand at which gimmick does he stand at the table in? I'd like to know the answer to that. Right? Does he get paid? He was getting paid multiple times to work the multiple gimmicks. Wasn't that the whole idea?
oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's why he bought the Patriot gimmick from Del Wilkes. So that was the idea behind that.
He was probably the Patriot. He had to be, well, maybe Grant Akuma can correct us on that too. He was probably the Patriot, right? Because that's where you're going to make the dollars. I could see people seeing the Patriot and saying, I'll buy an 8x10 of the Patriot. But I'm not buying an 8x10 of Tom Brandy or Salvatore Sincere. So,
I don't know if Tom Brandy 8x10s are flying.
really flying off the shelves. Oh, I remember you from getting your ass kicked by Mark Marrow. Yeah, that's me, kid. Like, cool.
Yeah. I tell you, listen, since Grant Akuma's listening, I saw a member of Fist selling some 8x10s at a show in Texas that had Akuma on them.
I bet he didn't get paid for that.
If he DMs me, I can give him the information.
Oh,
and maybe,
let's go.
Maybe we've got another.
Let's snitch. Let's snitch. Yeah, let's snitch on this guy. Hold on, I'm going to find out who's in. I'm going to look up the entire roster of Fist so I can guess who this was.
Maybe we've got a Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi situation on our hands here, where Akuma needs to get a taste of that merch.
Thousands of dollars have been moved. How much merch was moving out here? How much Fist merch was moving out when you were there that day?
This guy was selling a lot of 8x10s.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I think Akuma's got to get his taste.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's Tracy Smothers' career veering off into some odd directions.
Snitches. Joe and Rich snitch on indie wrestlers. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it could be a new segment of the show, right?
So here, this guy, he's doing that. Yeah, well, we get a lot of trouble with that one. So
you got 5 or 6 real Tracy Smothers stories, and then one that was complete bullshit.
Right.
So
here's one actually from CM Punk that I love, and it speaks to, again, like we were saying, where he just went out there and just wanted to put guys over, not an old wrestler in any way, shape, or form. So CM Punk. He talks about, one of the first names he ever worked. So one of the first times he ever worked. He says here, one time he grabbed nachos from a fan and I was so terrified he was going to dump cheese all over me and I'd have to drive home from Kentucky covered in concession stand nacho cheese. He said, block it. Hit me with the cheese, kid. I think we may have lost Joe there. Joe, you back?
I was muted.
Okay, no problem. I put on mute too because I thought we've been having some connection issues, so I wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, again, a great story there where he brings the cheese out, and CM Punk's like, fuck, this guy's gonna throw cheese all over me. And he's getting ready for it, and Tracy's like, hit the cheese, block it, kid, hit me with the cheese, like, get over, hit me with the fucking cheese. So now Tracy Smothers has to drive home from Kentucky with cheese all over him, but
covered in cheese, right? But that's the thing.
That's normally the business.
Normally, the veteran would be hitting the kid with the cheese, but he wanted to take the cheese spot with the nachos. So I feel bad for the kid in the crowd who got his nachos taken.
I know, yeah. He's like, God damn, like I want those nachos.
That would kind of suck.
It would.
But yeah, Tracy Smothers, look, the Southern Boys / Young Pistols, excellent tag team, very underrated. If you can track down that match against the Nightmares from Continental that we talked about years ago on this show, that's well worth your time.
I just looked. I don't think it's available the same way we found it all those years ago. So you probably find it if you do a little bit of looking. But yeah, it is not easily accessible like it used to be, unfortunately. So
yeah, I mean, it was a great match with a great finish. And then the match against the Midnight Express, obviously, hard recommendation for that. Some of the IWA Mid-South stuff against the young indie wrestlers of the day. If you can find some of the Chris Hamrick tag team matches, those are worth your time, as I get hiccups at the worst time possible. The ECW stuff was fun. I watched him wrestle Masato Tanaka the other night from a house show. This is on Chris Zellner's Twitter feed. That was a very good match with a lot of great mic work. The one thing about Tracy Smothers is he knew how to rile up a crowd. He'll get on a mic and just destroy a crowd. I mean, he was famous for his mic work, famous for saying he was going to, come out there and smack everybody in the face. The everybody dies was his other thing that he would say. He said he was going to commit mass murder was another one of his lines. Everybody dies. I'm going to commit mass murder on this crowd. So his mic, he was well known for riling up crowds and doing great mic work as well. So that's another facet of his game, especially later on in his career. Another thing he would do, another thing he would say frequently on the mic is he would come out and, he would say, well, since those two kids, the match before me, did all my moves, I'm just going to come out here and talk tonight. And then cut a promo for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was his heat. Yeah, that's he did that a few WrestleMania weekends ago, where he'd just come out and do heat. As I was going to wrestle, but now I'm not. Yeah, he would just kind of do that instead, which is a fun way to generate some heat too in front of the audience and get them to boo.
Which would work great if it was like two luchadors in the match before him, and he would come out and say that they stole all his moves, so he's going to come out here and talk instead. So that was kind of the gag. But just it's just a legendary figure in wrestling who wrestled for, close to over 30 years, right? I guess we're close to 30 years. I guess like 84, 85 to last year.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And the Smoky Mountain stuff, if you could find it, you could watch him work as a single and as a top guy, but really, a great tag team wrestler. I mean, that's how I'll always, kind of remember him as being part of several different, really excellent tag teams. And, that run in WCW in the early 90s with Steve Armstrong.
So there you go. Tracy Smothers passed away, but yeah, plenty of stuff that you can watch on W Network and whatnot. And I do want to plug this as well. Aaron Bentley does the Everything Elite podcast, Jumping Bomb Audio, on this podcast network as well. He wrote something in February 2017 about Tracy Smothers. I think it's a pretty interesting piece as well, given the connotation and how like you said, the Stars and Bars, which was a huge part of his character in early WCW, and then when he went to the Indies was a huge part of his character and his persona as well. And it's just a little bit of a look at that and kind of trying to sort of wrestle with that as well. If you're uncomfortable seeing the Confederate flag everywhere and him being donned in it and holding the flag up and all that sort of stuff. So it's an interesting read. It's called Smothered and Changed: A Wild-Eyed Southern Boy in a Modern Man's World. I'll put a link in the description of the show as well if you want to read about that. But that's Tracy Smothers, and yeah, like I said, plenty of ways where you can watch him and see. But the biggest thing is going to be just the outpouring of support that you saw from every corner of wrestling, and that's to me what really sticks out is people from 30 years ago, people from 20 years ago, people from 10 years ago, and people today all talking about how important he was to their career. So that is Tracy Smothers. All right, are you ready to move to WWE here? Let's talk about Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell. It's red. There's cells. We had to acknowledge a man. What do you think overall of the show before we go match by match? We're not going to go excruciatingly long because we're already, we're up against the clock here, about an hour left. But what do you think overall of Hell in a Cell? I thought of WWE pay-per-views this year, I don't want to say it was one of the better ones, but it wasn't. I didn't hate my life while I was watching this, like I do most WWE shows. So I guess that's a positive.
Nah, there was some stuff I liked on this show. This wasn't one of their. This was, I guess, this year, since it's been one of their. I guess it was one of their better shows this year. But there was one match I thought was genuinely great, and there was some stuff on here that was really terrible. Probably 3 matches that were really terrible. One that was genuinely great. One that was just, I don't know. The main event was just ridiculous to me. And then I guess the match we're going to start with, which is Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. I quit Hell in the Cell match.
Yes, because it's October, so we have a Hell in a Cell. But we really just want to do an I Quit match instead. So yeah, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. Roman Reigns wins, defeats Jey Uso, retains his Universal title. Spent 29 minutes and 6 seconds, and it felt every second of that. So I watched this a day after everybody else. I watched it on Monday. I wasn't able to watch it live on Sunday, and I see people saying, "Oh my God, what a performance! What an unbelievable match!" And I'm like, "All right, let's go. Let's see what this is." I fucking hated it. I thought it was so bad. I honestly, truly do not know that I can call this a wrestling match.
You stole my talking.
Oh, is that really what you were going to do? Like, honestly, as I'm watching this, I'm going, this isn't wrestling. Why am I watching this? This is not, I want wrestling. I want back and forth. I want action. I want guys going off the ropes. I want guys doing moves. This wasn't a wrestling match. I mean, it wasn't a cinematic match, but it may as well have been. It was a cinematic match done in a ring and done in a cage, because in those 29 minutes and 6 seconds, there was just not that much going on. It's just bottom of the, it's just, what moves? I mean, there's 5 or 6 moves going on, and then it's just Roman Reigns talking and Jey Uso sometimes talking and sometimes selling. It was just, I hated it. I thought it was trash.
I don't think it was a cinematic match in a ring. To me, it was just more of an angle. I thought the second half of this match, it started off as a match and a pretty good one. I mean, it was pretty decent. But then once they broke into the community theater shit and the agents ran out first, Adam Pearce and Pat Buck run in, and it's like, what? Like, they were trying to put this over as the most brutal beating we've ever seen. The problem was it wasn't. I've seen far brutal beatings than this in Hell in a Cells and in wrestling matches. So right there, you're kind of losing me. In fact, I thought Randy Orton put more of a beating on Drew McIntyre than Roman put on Uso.
Oh my God, absolutely. I thought, yeah, Bayley and Banks killed each other. And Reigns was just kind of like methodically punching him and yelling at him. And then Jey Uso has to kind of sit there and sell for 6 minutes after, like, and
whipping him with the belt and all that. Look, but it's like, I thought that would, but then, when it completely broke down to the spoken word bullshit again, at that point, to me, it became an angle and not a match.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's not a match anymore. Now what you're doing is an angle. And, he lifted the stairs over his head. Well, first he tried to throw the stairs in the ring, but they hit the ropes and bounced back at him, which I thought was fun. I legitimately laughed out loud at that because he looked like an absolute goof. But then he gets the stairs over the top rope, and, he's threatening to crush his skull with the stairs, after the whole spoken word bit. We just saw the spoken word bit last month.
Right.
But here's the thing about this stuff. It's so different that there are going to be people who love it, and there are going to be people who hate it.
Right. We'll be on the right side of history again, like we were for the fucking graveyard match, and like we were for the Money in the Bank and all that sort of thing. It's fine. It's okay. We'll be the curmudgeons that hate fun and all that sort of stuff. It's fine. But in a month time, we'll be right. So it's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, there's going to be people who love this stuff and go on and on about how great the storytelling is and this and that. But Rich, in my view, and I'm going to say the same thing I said last month, and we didn't really get to do a show because I think you were bouncing around the mountains when that match happened. But I'm going to say the same thing that I was saying about the match the last time they did this. Great pro wrestling tells the story in the ring. And you don't need the wrestlers to break into a play to explain the story to you. This is almost cheating. You know what I mean? It's like, this almost subverts the art. This isn't what pro wrestling is. Pro wrestling is a physical storytelling. And if you're just going to zoom the camera in and basically mic up the wrestler to spoon feed you the story, and read you the story like they're performing a play, it's not a pro wrestling match to me.
Right. I agree.
It's an angle at that point. What you're doing now is no longer a match. And I just don't respect that from an artistic point of view. The same way that I respect pro wrestlers going out there and telling a story with a pro wrestling match. And far be it from me to shit on someone for getting melodramatic about wrestling, because go listen to me talk about the Tanahashi Okada matches. Go read my reviews of the Tanahashi Okada matches. I get wrapped up in the melodrama. I'm into that. But they told those stories in the ring.
Right. They told them physically. They told them with the match, with the way that they're wrestling, with the way that they sell, with all that sort of. It's not, Tanahashi saying, "You're just a kid," and Okada saying, "I'm the Rainmaker." You're like, it wasn't that. If it was that, I probably would have thought it sucked. If it was 40 minutes of them yelling at each other of what they are and who they are and what they're going to be and that sort of stuff, then yeah, that's a whole different animal. But no, they physically tell a story, and you get caught up in the drama of how they're selling, what moves they're doing, what sequence of moves they're doing, callbacks to previous things they learned, things they've adapted to, new moves they've created, that sort of stuff. But yeah, if it's just guys talking to each other, it's just a promo then. That's just a promo with Jey Uso rolling around on the ground for 5 minutes.
Now you're just cutting promos on each other, and now you're just doing an angle. And honestly, it was boring. I mean, it became very drawn out, tedious, and boring at that point.
Yeah, I kind of got the picture. I couldn't believe that this thing went 30 minutes. If they were going to go this style of match, then yeah, make it 15 minutes. I get it. I get what you're trying to do. But like, yeah, the 8th time we get Roman Reigns go, "Oh, acknowledge me." And it's just like, oh my God, all right, we got it. Or
we just did it the previous month.
Exactly. And then Jey Uso, anytime he would get able to talk, it was just like, "Oh, you want this? You want this? You want that?" I'm like, all right, I got it. Like, let's go. I get it. You want it. Acknowledge me. Tribal leader. Let's go. Bring it home, boys. Like, let's, and it just, yeah, it was like 15 minutes straight of just Roman standing over Jey writhing in pain, and Roman just saying, "Acknowledge me, tribal leader," and then the referee going in and saying, "He doesn't quit. He doesn't quit, Roman. He didn't quit. He doesn't quit. He hasn't quit." I know he could hear him. He we got it, ref. We got it. Like, they've added the trope I hate more than anything in the world is the "I quit" match, where every fucking second we have to ask the guy if he quits. It's a hip toss. "Hey, Jey, do you quit? Do you quit? Tell me if you quit." But this one was it made even worse because, yeah, it's silent. There's no crowd. It's all talking, and then just, yeah, any moment of silence that isn't caught up with Roman asking to be acknowledged or Jey, writhing in pain, is the referee going, "He doesn't quit, Roman. He didn't quit. He does not quitting."
And then he wins it by putting Jimmy in a side headlock.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't even look dangerous. It was too. It was done oddly enough that the finish was done abruptly and too quickly. It didn't seem like Jimmy was in like serious peril. I don't know. None of this worked for me. But the weird thing about it is, if the second half of that match, if the first half of the match were just ended like a match, I would have liked it. And if the second half of the match had just been an angle instead, I would have liked the angle. That would have been a really good angle. Right? But it wasn't that.
Honestly, you could have had it where he beats Jey, whatever way he does it, and he just keeps beating on Jey, keeps beating on Jey, keeps beating on Jey. Jimmy runs in, he puts Jimmy in the lock, and then Jey maybe says, "You're the tribal leader, whatever. Yeah, whatever you want me to tell you, just come on, like, let us go," type of thing.
Yeah.
Would work. But no, instead that was in the context of a match, and I'm supposed to kind of think that it's the same thing as a normal wrestling match. I'm supposed to think that I'm, watching this or grading this or consuming this as a consistent wrestling match. And it's just, like you said, it's a promo. It's not. It's cheating. It really is. To me, it is like you said, you don't respect, that style. And I'm right with you. Like, I don't respect, if you need to, and we're going to talk about a match later where I thought two people went out there with an even better story and told it in the ring and all that sort of stuff, and everything that I want out of pro wrestling, I got. Whereas this was like, he's just spoon-fed's the best way to say it. And anytime when Roman's not saying, "Acknowledge me," or "I'm the tribal leader," you have Corey Graves say, all he has to say is he's the tribal leader, and he'll be the tribal leader. It's like, oh my God, let's go. Yeah, like, Jesus Christ, again, we get it.
Like we talked about at the top, they just have to beat you over the head with everything.
Every second of silence is like, well, if he just called him the tribal leader, this would all be over.
It's to the point of annoyance, and then people think that that's how you tell stories in wrestling because that's what they've been given for the last 20 years. It doesn't have to be that way. And in fact, this is a great example of how I find it more annoying than anything else. And you're exactly right. Sasha Banks and Bayley went out there, and with physicality, they blew this away. And an hour later, and I don't want to skip to that match yet, but I'm glad you brought that up because they totally blew away. This was just, God, it just felt so forced. And that's not what a pro wrestling match is. And a lot of people are saying, well, they talk trash in a lot of matches. A lot of matches you hear wrestlers talk trash or there's dialogue. Yeah, but the difference is they don't zoom in on the participants and go into a scripted back and forth. That's the difference here. This wasn't trash talk within the context of a pro wrestling match. This delved into these guys doing scripted verbiage.
Right.
That's the difference.
Well,
so I don't want to
the big difference is, like you talk about Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens uses like his trash talk in between doing moves. It's a way to kind of fill that gap while his guy is selling. While the other guy's selling in the middle of the ring, Owens will say, "All right, do whatever." He'll talk shit. He'll do that, but it's in the it's building up to the next move that he's going to do. It's going to build up to the next physical thing he's going to do. This is the opposite. It was talking with the occasional physicality to bridge between the talking. That's a whole different animal. You know what I mean? Like one is constant physicality and back and forth, and the other one is talking with buffered by physicality, and that's just not what it is.
The other thing is this trash talk that you're not meant to hear. It's just you're overhearing it. The other is they are deliberately speaking to the audience.
Right.
That's you don't do that in a pro wrestling match. This delved into theater is what it did. And it's just, I don't know. I have less respect for it than that's not the art of pro wrestling. I'm not trying to be like uppity about it, but that's not what the art of pro wrestling is. And it's almost, it's similar to, Edge and Randy Orton. I thought that they subverted the art too. They cheated as well. When you're cobbling together a match in that fashion with the greatest match ever and cutting out the botches and piecing things together and reshooting spots, I don't have any respect for that. Or I have far less respect for that, I should say, than I do just going out and having an hour match. Here it is with all of its flaws. If there are any flaws. If you have that net to work with, I don't respect it as much. The thing with this is you're cheating to tell your story.
Right.
Because the whole art of pro wrestling is telling that story with the physicality. This was not a match to me either. It was an angle. I didn't rate it. I can't rate something like this because to me it's not a wrestling match. It ceased being a match when we broke into the theater aspect of it. And we just saw it the month before. I mean, come on. They did the same match 2 months in a row. With the same bullshit at the end. Except this one was, far more tedious and even longer. Or at least it felt like it. I'm not looking at the match times. But, no, I didn't like this. I just
like wrestling. You know what I mean? I just like, and
not what
like,
I want.
We're going to talk about it a lot in the show, unfortunately, because Bound for Glory also, did this too. But it's like, I just like wrestling, man. And if it's not that I hate one company or anything like that, because we're going to talk about a match that I'm going to say is one of my favorite matches of the entire year. And it was this, it has melodrama. It had melodrama. It had, stakes. It had, very hit you over the head type stuff, but it was just done so much better than this. So yeah, when I see this being like lauded as some like really incredible performance by these two guys, like you said, you brought up an interesting point there with like, the Edge and Orton thing. And I 100% agree with that. Is wrestling, I like the idea that sometimes you go in there and it just doesn't work out, or there's some warts, or there's just bad chemistry or whatever. But sometimes you go out there and every move that you wanted hits perfectly. Everything you try to do hits perfectly. The crowd's into it. You guys are just on the top of your game, and it ends up being like an incredible match. Like that is where the art form is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, why would you not want that? And we talked about that during the Edge and Orton thing. Like that, to me, if I was a performer, I'd say no. Let us go out there and let's see what we can do. And if we have an all-time great match, we have an all-time great match. If we don't, then all right, whatever. But hey, we're going to try like hell to make it an all-time great match. And if we hit everything and everyone's in the right spot and the crowd responds or whatever, and obviously not the crowds right now, but like that's the art of a great wrestling match. Just sometimes it's just two guys go in there and just for some fucking reason it works and it's great and it's perfect and it stands the test of time And sometimes you go in there and it's fine. Yeah, that is the art of it. That's the fun of it to me. Just going in there and reciting lines. I don't know. Is that what anybody wants? If that's what you want out of pro wrestling, that's cool. But like, just go watch a fucking play. You know what I mean? Like, go. You know, it's not what I want. I just like wrestling. I don't know why you have to defend that in 2020, but yeah.
Why can't Roman just beat this guy within an inch of his life and have the brother come down to try to save him? And you could basically do this without breaking into the theatrics. It's like, and a lot of the counter arguments are, well, Roman is doing, he's so great in this role and he crushes it. I guess, but if they just started, well, I guess this is a bad analogy considering AEW legitimately did this last week.
Right.
But if Roman Reigns and Jey Uso just broke into a tap dance routine in the middle of the match, and it was a really well done tap dance routine, I still don't want to see that in a wrestling match. I don't care how well you do it if it's something that I don't want to see. At that point, it doesn't matter how well you perform it. I don't want to see these guys, do this community theater stuff. I just want to see a wrestling match. A well-told story in a wrestling match. And you could have told this story with physical, without breaking into mid-match promos. And, for the same reasons, I don't want to see Chris Jericho and MJF break into song. I don't care how entertaining or well done it is. It's not what I want in my pro wrestling. It was also the lowest quarter hour of the show. But, it's...
That's neither here nor there, but,
This, even though everybody's wife who doesn't watch wrestling loved it and came into the room to watch. So how low would that quarter hour have been, Rich, if all the imaginary family members didn't come into the room to watch? Could you imagine how low that quarter hour would have gone? No, this didn't work for me. And I get why people like it. I really do. But it's not for me. It's not why I watch pro wrestling. And it's not what I want to see in a pro wrestling match. It's not the same as in-match trash talk. Something completely different. But I really think COVID has been Vince McMahon's fucking wet dream. I mean, he gets to do all these things that aren't pro wrestling.
Oh, these aren't going away, by the way. The fake crowd noise, the not pro wrestling, the cinematic matches, this stuff is not going away. And fuck, you look at WWE Q3, honestly, I don't know. He might never run a show in front of fans ever again if it was up to him. To be honest, he's got his fans now. He's got a video wall of fans that they can now control because they've pre-recorded people cheering and booing and raising their hands up and down. So you can log all that and just basically have somebody control, cheer, boo, yay, whatever. You can make your own noises. They can make their own crowd noise. They don't have to tour around. They're saving a shit ton of money by not touring. Like,
yeah,
he's gonna. I mean, obviously they'll be in front of fans again, but like.
And they're making record profits.
And they already Q3. They've already made record profits this year. So,
yep, they've already without quarter four.
Yeah,
correct.
Mm-hmm.
So the call just ended right before we recorded, but isn't the idea that they've already crossed the threshold into making record profits?
Right, and the Thunderdome did not cost anywhere near what people thought it would cost as well. So it's tremendous savings for them. I mean, they were saving a lot more, obviously, by being in the PC, but yeah, the actual cost of renting the Amway Center and turning it into the Thunderdome, a lot lower than people expected. So yeah, they're en route to, their biggest profits ever. They're paying less, for tours. They're paying less employees. They get to control the crowds the way they want. They can do, spoken word matches. Like, it's going to be a tough sell to get them back in front of crowds. As ridiculous as that may sound, like, Vince, for a guy who's been struggling like hell for the last 5 years to get the crowd to kind of go in the direction he wants them to go, they'll go whatever direction they want them to now.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with those pesky fans not buying into your stories because they're controlling the crowd responses now. And you don't even have to deal with these pesky pro wrestling matches, which he's never wanted to do either.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I mean,
we make movies. We make movies. This was a movie. Roman Reigns and Uso was a movie.
That's right. A really shitty movie.
Yeah, it was a bad movie. I don't want to watch it, but it was a movie.
And the cinematic stuff this is what Vince has always dreamed of. That time in the 90s when he said, I wish I didn't have to have the matches. I mean, he said that. He said, I wish there was a way to not have the matches. And at another point in history, he said he wishes there was a way to get wrestling out of the name of his company. So he's always wanted to be just this storyteller. And COVID has given him the opportunity to think outside the box and do wrestling in a different way. And it's all terrible. And it's not connecting with the audiences. I mean, the audience isn't growing. That's really not – it's not falling anymore either. I really think they've finally hit their base.
They're there. Yeah, they're there. And they luckily, getting to the Thunderdome, for whatever you want to say, I mean, getting to the Thunderdome really helped keep them, because it was really trending bad. Really. And I think without the Thunderdome, it probably would have been worse. But I think enough fans now are cool with the Thunderdome. They're fine. They get enough of the experience. And yeah, you're down to like your hardcores of hardcores. And those hardcores are like, you know what? This Thunderdome thing's fine. I'll watch it. It's cool. And that's where we have now.
They've run off everyone they're going to run off because the Raw ratings have now settled between they dip between basically 1.6 and 1.8 million every week, like clockwork. So it's like, I think they finally hit the base of people who are going to watch every week no matter what and are genuinely enjoying some of this stuff. And they've run off everybody else that they're going to run off. But yeah, this is his dream, to be able to present his stories this way. I've got hiccups this whole show. To present his stories this way and be able to control the crowd response the way that he wants the crowd to. He finally has figured out again how to control crowds by having fake crowds and just manipulating the noise himself, because we don't know how crowds would have reacted to a lot of this stuff over the last couple of months. It's just, they're just piping in whatever reaction that they see.
Which, I mean, for Vince is perfect. That'd be great. He doesn't have to think about it for a second. Here's what we're going to do. And here's what I want the reaction to be. I want this guy to be booed and this guy to be cheered. The end.
Yep.
It's great. I mean, for him, it's great.
Yeah, it's just a TV show now. It's literally just a TV show now. I mean, right down to some of these elements we're seeing, like this match, which to me wasn't even a match. So, yeah, I don't know. Not for me. Not the direction I want wrestling to go in. But, anything this different was going to be divisive.
Yeah.
I can see why people liked it.
Oh, I get it. No, I do for sure. Yeah, I mean, maybe honestly, me in another time probably would have liked it as well. I don't know if I was younger or whatever, like I would like it. But yeah, it's just for what I want out of pro wrestling right now, it's just yeah.
Can I say something that's going to sound incredibly condescending, and I don't mean it to sound that way?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
If I was 23 years old and I've never seen good pro wrestling, and I'm a huge Roman Reigns fan, I would have fucking loved it.
Yeah.
That sounds really condescending.
It did, but I totally get you. I mean, I think everybody, most people listening that aren't that 23-year-old guy that's like, oh man, that's me. Like, agrees. Yeah, they 100% agree. But yeah, I'm right with you. It is.
I mean, if you're a 20-year-old kid, and all you've really watched is WWE, which is fine. I'm not trying to be like, gotta watch those Puerto Rico tapes, kid. I'm just saying, like, there's probably a lot of people out there. You're 20 years old, you're 18, you're 23. You've only watched WWE your whole life. You're a big Roman Reigns fan. You're a Sasha stan, or you're, whatever. You're a big Alexa Bliss fan. You love The Fiend, right? You've never seen great pro wrestling because WWE hasn't been great since what? You want to say 2014? Was that great?
Yeah, that was a pretty good year. Yeah, 2014, 2015, somewhere in that range for sure.
Rich, that's 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, it's a while.
So you're 18 years old. Maybe you weren't watching then, or you don't remember. You got to remember. And you're a big Roman Reigns fan, or you're a Sasha stan, or you love Alexa Bliss, or you love The Fiend, or whatever the fuck. And you don't really know any other form of pro wrestling. You might have thought that was great. And I understand it. Because that's the kind of pro wrestling that you've kind of been nurtured on, and I get it. And I'm not saying that the 50-year-old guy listening to us right now who has seen great pro wrestling shouldn't have liked it or couldn't have liked it. I understand why it's divisive. Rich, I just want to watch people wrestle.
Yeah, I know. In 2020, you got to defend that, and we have to do a show where we say, Joe, I just really want to watch guys wrestle or girls wrestle. I just want to see a match where two people go in and try to prove that they're better than the other, but you got to defend that now.
You know what's funny? When we say that, a lot of times people come back with, well, that sounds boring. And you know why they say that? I don't get on their case when they say that. Do you know why they say that? Because they've never seen great pro wrestling.
Yeah.
That's why they say that. It sounds boring to them Because when WWE or even in some of these other companies, these modern companies, when it's just wrestling, it is pretty boring. I understand where they're coming from. Those people who say that, they're like, oh, well, that sounds boring. Go watch Ring of Honor Pure. This is the thing, Rich. I've never, ever, ever wanted wrestling to be the Ring of Honor Pure tournament or UWFI or Rings. That's not what I've ever wanted it to be, and that's not what we're talking about when we have these conversations seemingly every week. We're okay with a little bit of comedy or a little bit of this or a little bit of that. It's just some of these things are so far over the line, right, that it's become extreme. They just killed a man on Impact and treated it like comedy. Okay? Just because you don't want to see that in your wrestling doesn't mean you need everything to be the Ring of Honor Pure tournament. Why do we have to deal in these extremes all the time? You know, it's just these companies have gone so far lately. Just because I don't want to see a song and dance routine in the middle of a wrestling show doesn't mean I need everything to be rings.
Right, yeah. Now you want to watch Jack Briscoe in 1976. You know, have a 60-minute, match. Where they just exchange, side headlocks for 70. There's somewhere in between. There's somewhere, Joe, I feel like, between musicals and Jack Briscoe having a 60-minute match in the 70s. I feel like there's somewhere in between, but apparently there's just not. So. And
when we say we just want to see pro wrestling, when people say, oh, well, that sounds boring, they expose themselves. They've never seen great pro wrestling and how great it could be. It's like, that's very same show where Jericho and MJF broke into song. The first hour of that Dynamite was like the best hour of wrestling TV that I've seen in a decade. I loved it. It made me love pro wrestling watching that first hour. I thought they were on their way to a legendary episode of television that I was going to be talking about for years. That I was going to make these children in this house watch 10 years from now when they were old enough if they happen to be fans. But, it didn't, the second hour wasn't as good, but it's like that first hour of Dynamite last week wasn't fucking dry ass Ring of Honor Pure, which I also like.
Yeah, I like it too, but yeah, no. That's the example people bring up is like, oh, if you want boring wrestling, go watch Ring of Honor. Well,
no one's watching Ring of Honor Pure. Well, it's like there's a happy medium here. And that's not what Ring of Honor is. That's just one facet of Ring of Honor. But I don't want to get into all that. But it's not that we're saying we need everything to be super serious and 100% sports-based. I don't think either one of us want that. But can we just acknowledge that it has gone a little too far? That's all. It's gone a little too far. Song and dance routines and people getting shot and murder mysteries and The Fiend and people getting possessed.
Yeah, a lot of background music, zombies in a wrestling ring that happened on this week's.
Yeah, and I mean, geez.
The zombies are legal, though. So
Wade Barrett with a straight face. Zombies are legal in this match. I can't take it.
Right.
And it's like, you can call me Cornette all you want, but that's not what I'm doing here. It's not like I have zero tolerance or don't enjoy a little wackiness, but sometimes these things are going just a little too far. And this Roman match is another example of it.
I'm ready to just start skipping when it's not going to be an actual wrestling match. I'm ready to just kind of skip it so we can just stop talking about it. Because that's where, we'll talk about Bound for Glory here in a minute, but like halfway through EC3 and Moose, I was just like, do I need to watch this anymore? Like, I don't really want to watch this anymore. And I didn't. I turned it off. Like, I don't know what happened at the end of the match. It's just like, I'm done. I don't want background music. I just want, I'm just done with that shit. Like, I'm done wasting our time on the show, and it's not going away either. Like, it's not going away anytime soon.
No, it's not going away. And the thing is, you know how I know that just doing great pro wrestling can be great? Because last week's first hour of Dynamite. That's how I know. There's an example from today. From a fucking 7 days ago, there's an example of how just doing pro wrestling right is great and everybody loves it.
Fuck,
and
we're going to talk. We'll skip ahead 2 matches and talk about a match that I think is exactly what I'm trying to say.
And by the way, the highest quarter hour on that show was in the first hour last week of Dynamite. People like it. It connects.
Wrestling fans like wrestling sometimes. It's interesting. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how pro wrestling fans sometimes just love pro wrestling?
Fucking weirdos, fucking morons. What are they doing? Don't they appreciate the arts? Well, they appreciate the arts. All right, can we? Do you have any thoughts about fucking Elias and Jeff Hardy and The Miz versus and Otis? I don't care. Can we just skip
I do.
those?
I mean, it's just fucking ridiculous. I mean, we already talked about Elias and Jeff Hardy. I don't understand why Jeff Hardy's the babyface. It's just, but we talked about it already.
Well, I think now it's because Elias is making fun of him for having DUIs. So we're supposed to.
Well, yeah, he did on the pre-show. That's
right,
true.
Right.
But it's like, but again, why are you positioning the guy who's trying to sell the record? I don't know. Just whatever that matter. And then Jeff Hardy, he just gets DQ'd. You called it. You said, "Are we going to see a guitar shot?" Well, we got our guitar shot in full view of the ref. He just hits him with the guitar and gets disqualified. I guess the idea was he was so angry that he was called a drunk that he just had to whack him with the guitar. Was that the idea here?
I think so. I don't know why it had to take 8 minutes to tell us that story, though. It could have taken 5 seconds, but that's
Are we also trying to make sense of something that they probably didn't put 2 seconds?
Yes, exactly. We have already spent more time than they have spent on it, so let's just move on.
Otis and The Miz.
Oh, no, the breakup.
In a year where there are many contenders for worst match of the year, this has to be...
It was so bad.
This has to be right up there for one of the worst matches that tried to be a real match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was. Yeah. It's and it's not all on Otis. Like The Miz is. There was a time where The Miz was fine. Remember when he was okay or semi good, and every time people would say, "Oh my God, The Miz is getting so good. He's gotten better than he was." Every month, it was the same thing with Nikki Bella. When you improve every single month for 4 years straight, you are incredible. And that's that's where it was a few years ago with The Miz. Oh, he gets better every night. It's okay, hold on.
He would have been Stan Hansen by now.
Right? Yeah. He is not getting better. He is getting worse every night now. He is bad now. I think he just doesn't. I don't know what it is. He's getting older. He just doesn't. I mean, he was horrendous. Otis is shit. God, this was bad.
The Miz life cycle was everybody hated him at first, but he was actually not nearly as bad as people thought he was.
No, he's pretty good. He was good early on. He was fine early on.
Yeah, the original tag team with Morrison on ECW, feuding with Jimmy Wang and Shannon Moore, those were good matches.
Yeah.
Then we were the ones saying that he was underrated for a while there. In the early days of this podcast, we're listen, The Miz is kind of underrated. He's not great, but he goes out there and gives you a professional performance. He's really not
I was a
bad.
Miz is hashtag actually good guy for a while there.
But then, there was this deluge of, you're saying, then it became The Miz is so underrated. He's a Wrestler of the Year contender. He's the best wrestler in the company. And it's well, listen, pump the brakes. He's not
right. Let's reel that in a little bit.
Good. Okay, he's a nice little wrestler, but people just went overboard with it. And then he went from underrated to so underrated he was now overrated. That's been The Miz life cycle. And now he just isn't good anymore.
No, he stinks.
He's not a good wrestler anymore. And Otis is the drizzling shit.
It's so bad.
He's horrible. He's horrible.
I mean, he was missing there was basic stuff that he was missing. They did some basic I think Otis put Miz over the ropes, and Otis was supposed to either drop down or jump over him or just do something to get out of the way, and he fucked that up. And then Miz fucked he wasn't in the right spot, so Miz had to stop and get there, and then Otis bounced off the ropes, and I'm dude, this is day fucking week 1 wrestling school stuff. We're trying to do an up and over, we're bouncing off the ropes and dropping down and letting the guy go over and bouncing and they were fucking that up, and I was oh dear God. Let's come on. This guy's a professional. He's in the biggest company, getting presumably a semi-push or whatever, and he can't fucking drop down or bounce off the ropes. He can't do anything. He's really bad. Really bad.
You got to be a mouth breather to think he's entertaining. I mean, there's nothing entertaining about Otis. I hate simple-minded wrestling characters. I cannot stand that. And listen, I'm not some kind of woke. We all know that. But I think it's insulting when they do.
Are you sure?
I think it's insulting when they do these simple-minded wrestling characters.
Well,
I don't Eugene and Otis and throughout history, George the Animal Steel and Dave Sullivan.
Your favorite ever, Bugsy McGraw, yeah.
Bugsy McGraw. I mean, that shit is and I'm not someone. Listen, I am the first person to overlook things because it's just wrestling and it's trashy entertainment. And I think wrestling is a little better when it's a little trashy, if I'm being completely honest. And I'm not someone who takes entertainment as seriously as the real world. And I have a high tolerance for a lot of shit like that. But the simple-minded wrestling characters have always bothered me. I just, man, you are just picking on the people who are least equipped to defend themselves. I hate it.
And it's just a one note joke. It's just a one note joke too. You know, that's where it kind of bores me. It's just like, all right, I get it. He's an idiot. He's a moron. Everybody else knows he's a moron. He doesn't know he's a moron. Ha 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 ha. Okay, we got it.
How the fuck was Eugene on TV all those years?
I know, and you would think the Eugene character, if you went to the TLB and said, "Hi, I want you to predict what year this happened." There was a character that was the mentally handicapped cousin of an authority figure on this show. Like, what year was that? She'd probably say 1981 or 1980. No, it's 2005.
Yeah. Presented as comedy,
right?
You're supposed
and
to
everybody was laughing at him and then kicked his ass. And there was a bunch of people who kicked the shit out of him because they were annoyed that he was handicapped or disabled or whatever you want. It's just it's shocking how long that lasted. I have the same thing with Saba Simba too. Like if I told you the Saba Simba character, you would be like, "Oh, that's like 71." Like I'm sure. I'm like, no, 1993. So.
Yeah.
No, that's 1993.
Yeah, but like Eugene was like the 2000s.
Yeah, like mid 2000s was Eugene.
Yeah, we're laughing at a mentally handicapped person. I don't understand why that was ever okay. But yeah, that's what Otis is to me. He's just the next in a long line of that shit, derivative shit, and he can't work. He's not funny at all. Nothing about him is funny. And he stinks. And I cannot stand Otis. And what this really was, and I tweeted this and it got no action because nobody respects history, Rich, did no numbers. But this is a total rehash of George the Animal Steel and Danny Davis in 1987 with Otis as George the Animal Steel, The Miz as Danny Davis, and the Money in the Bank briefcase as Mine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mine?
Of course I do. Yeah, I just had a conversation with one. Some guy at work was like, he just randomly came out to me. He was like, "What's George the Animal Steel? What was the name of his thing?" And I was like, "Mine." He's like, "Oh, thank you." And he just walked away. That's kind of the conversations I have in my work sometimes, which is pretty good.
Yeah, for people who have no idea what we're talking about besides Rich's coworker, okay? Mine, M-I-N-E, was George the Animal Steel's stuffed animal friend.
Yes, which you could buy. It was available to buy. It was a great merch seller, too, so good for them.
I seriously doubt it was a great merch seller, but that was the idea. But that was the idea. It was George the Animal Steel's version of Daryl, just 33 years earlier or whatever the fuck, right? So it was this ugly stuffed animal. I'm sure you're all Googling it now. It didn't even have legs. It was just long arms and a tongue and a body, and it was gray, and it was ugly. So George Steele would bring this thing to the ring, and he would pet it and hug it. Rich, this has all the elements of something that Joe Lanza, even at the age of 8, couldn't fucking stand. Simple-minded character, bring a stuffed animal to the ring, all of the things I hate in my pro wrestling, because I've never changed. I've been this forever. Let that sink in. As a child, I was this way. I thought that this shit sucked. Okay? So, he had this feud with Danny Davis. And if The Miz isn't the modern-day Danny Davis, I don't know
absolutely. Oh, for sure.
Otis is basically George the Animal Steel. I mean, they both don't do anything but grunt. Right? They can't speak.
They both stink. They're both terrible pro wrestlers.
They're both atrocious pro wrestlers. They fucking stink. Right?
They're fat. They're hairy. That's half the joke too. Is they're fat.
Yeah, and you could just substitute the Money in the Bank briefcase for Mine. That's what this was, and the match was just as bad as all of those Danny Davis, George the Animal Steel matches in 1988, which you can go watch on your little WWE network if you are so inclined. I would send you to the Monsoon Classic page. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Oh.
But you can probably find, I bet you he probably had that whole feud cataloged on his page somewhere along the line. But that's what this was. It was fucking atrocious. I seriously question you if you find Otis entertaining in any way, shape, or form. So yes, I did have some thoughts on those two.
There you
matches.
go. And Tucky turned on Otis. He's sick of carrying him.
And you know the thing, here's the thing about Tucky. I said this last year. Watching all of these awful heavy machinery matches, I started to gain an appreciation for Tucker. He's really not that bad. He's not that bad, especially for a guy his size.
He's got a good look too. He's got a really good look. You can definitely see that that was not going to last forever, and that at some point they were going to say, "Oh, wait, we got to do something with this guy. Or try something with this guy." I don't know if he's ever going to be anything, but at least give it a try to see on his own.
That's where I disagree. I think he looks like shit, and I think that's what's holding him back. He looks like a late 80s, like with the hair and the bad body, and I don't know. To me, his look is was hurting him. Now, here's the thing. He's going nowhere after this split. His career is basically done.
Oh, he already lost on main event. He lost to Humberto Carrillo on main event. So, yeah, that's already over. So
they didn't even do the Otis feud before he started losing on main event.
Yes.
He is 1,000,000% in the next round of cuts.
Oh, for sure.
1,000,000%. And I don't know if you could be Tucky on the independent circuit. And I don't think AEW is going to be knocking down his door. So that guy's fucked. Breaking up that team, that guy is fucked. So what's next?
Well, The Miz is now your Money in the Bank. He's now Mr. Money in the Bank. So there you go. Talk about that in a bit.
Yeah,
Okay, let's talk about good wrestling. Sasha Banks and Bayley, Hell in a Cell, SmackDown Women's title. Bayley comes in with a year-plus title reign, or just about under a year. I forget exactly what the exact numbers were. She comes in with the big title reign. She turns on Sasha Banks, breaks up the tag team. They have a successful tag team, and then it fractures, and Bayley turns on her. Bayley's the heel. Sasha's the face. They have this Hell in a Cell match. This is a match that, like, I wish it wasn't in Hell in a Cell, but I thought that they did a pretty good match with, like, I don't think the cell wasn't an important part of it. I think you could have taken this match out of the cell and put it anywhere, and it would have been good. But it's October, so you have to have it in the Hell in a Cell. But I think they did, all things considered, I think they did a great job using the cell as liberal as they didn't use it a ton. It wasn't an important part of the match. We'll talk about the main event where it was like all the match was related to the cell. This one wasn't necessarily, which is fine with me. But I thought, just like, when you talk about what I want out of pro wrestling and what I like out of pro wrestling, it's this. 30 minutes. There's clear babyface, clear heel. They even wear different gear to let you know, but they don't scream about the gear. They just wore, Sasha Banks wears white, Bayley wears black. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make the match or break the match or whatever. But if you say, hey, that's a nice little nod. I know a lot of people brought up that Bayley's gear was like a nod to Portia Perez, who, if people that watch Shimmer, watch women's wrestling, she's like one of the most hated heels in, like, independent women's wrestling history, and Bayley's, gear mimicked hers. Again, Corey Graves didn't have to scream, that's Portia Perez's gear! Like, she's from Shimmer, and she, like, if you know, you know. If you don't know, whatever. It's fine. You might not have known, Joe. It's fine. Somebody out there's listening and says, oh, I didn't think of that. I didn't make that connection. That's fine. That's okay. Maybe you didn't make the connection that Bayley was wearing black and Sasha was wearing white. That's fine. You don't need it. It's nice little notes there. It's nice, but, like, the story was clear, the idea was clear, and they wrestled the match perfectly from that. Bayley was the heel, Sasha was the face. Sasha wants to win the title, beat Bayley, who had the title for a long time. Bayley doesn't want to lose the title because she's had the title for a long time. It's not hard. It's really not hard. And then they go out there and they bust their ass. They kill one another. Great back and forth. Great kickouts. Great. I mean, this was tremendous. It's not hard. Like, just this. This is all I want. This is it.
Yeah, I hear you.
And there was nice little stuff. Like, if you want, again, nice little story things if you want. Bayley with her little security blanket chair. She brings the chair into the ring. She's bringing the chair everywhere. She does all that sort of stuff. She loses. It goes outside of the cell, so she doesn't have her chair anymore. And people say, well, there's chairs everywhere, but that was her chair. You know what I mean? There was a special symbolism to that chair. She had spray painted it. She put 1-0 on it to signify that she was over Bayley and that she was over Banks and did that. But to her, that was a big deal. Fuck, that's I brought this chair in specifically. So that's a nice little story knot. Again, they didn't hit you over the head with it. It didn't have to say, oh my God, Bayley's going to be nothing without her chair. It was just like, fuck, that sucks. Really brought the chair in for a reason, but okay, that's fine. We'll work it out, and then, later in the match, like, when Sasha goes to beat Bayley, she turns the chair around and you see 0-1 as she's tapping out. Again, something you might not have noticed it. It's fine. But for me, I was like, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. And she made sure she noted it. Because she could have done the chair the other way, but she turned it around to make sure it said 0-1 to the camera to signify, no, now it's 1-1, baby. We're even. Again, like, it's not that hard. Just think a little bit. Just put a little bit of thought into this, bust your ass, and keep it simple. Boom. That's wrestling. That's all I want.
There were little callbacks to Brooklyn too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The stomping during the submission.
Yeah.
Little stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you summed it up great. I mean, I don't have a ton more to add. Now, I got to get this out of the way. I don't think this match should have even ever happened. They shouldn't have touched.
Oh no,
until
God,
WrestleMania. No. Okay, so
this should have been the semi-main event of WrestleMania, and it would have been, just as good, just as important, more important. Yeah, it absolutely 100%. This shouldn't have happened.
More memorable. I mean, everything, because it's WrestleMania. You can even do Hell in the Cell at WrestleMania. Just put them in the cell at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it would have built to that. It could have built to that for sure. Yeah, they don't touch, and it builds to it. Okay, I finally want to get my hands on you, and the only way I can do it without you running away is Hell in the Cell. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not hard.
No, I know. This should have been Sabu and Taz. They shouldn't have touched until WrestleMania. You're right. Could have been the semi-main event. You could do it in the cell. You just build the heat. You have them. You tease a confrontation in the Royal Rumble, but they don't actually hook it up there either. One of them gets tossed out before they have a chance. There's a million different ways you could have done it. So the match should have never happened. But this is a poorly booked company that doesn't put any long-term thought into almost anything. So it is what it is. There's no point complaining about that because they suck, Rich. This company sucks.
Right. They weren't gonna hold off. They had to get that immediately. They've had 2 matches now in a month, even though, they spent a year and a half building this feud, and then they have 2 matches in a month.
Then they wrestle on SmackDown the very next week. So you expect them to hold off until wrestling. They're not going to do that. They're not going to make it as special as possible. And they'll probably wrestle 6 more times until WrestleMania between now and then. So, but you just kind of just have to enjoy this in a vacuum. I thought it was a really great match. I didn't think it was match of the year level, like some are saying. I have it at 4.25. There were a couple of abandoned spots. They were setting up something with the bamboo sticks. I
don't know what Bayley was trying there. I don't know if she was trying to make a very long stick or something, but yeah, like about 4 minutes in, she just said, fuck it, and just kind of walked away, which is good. I appreciate that. You can't just keep going at it. You just at some point have to say, fuck it, and move on. So.
Yeah, and some of the other setups were a little contrived or took a little too long to set up. But these are minor nitpicks. And the only reason I'm doing this is because Rich, put the match over, and I'm not just going to repeat his words. It was great. Had great intensity. A lot of the spots were great, like the chair in the corner and then like the sunset flip.
Oh man, yeah. Banks. This is classic Sasha Banks trying to kill herself too. Like this is classic NXT Sasha Banks, where you're just like, you're not going to wrestle anymore. Like you're not going to wrestle more than like 2 more years if you keep wrestling like this. But I don't fucking care. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, best match on the show. The one thing I'll say is the 3 cell matches were all different. I guess you can at least approach it from that perspective. And this one was just the kick each other's ass for how long was this? I'm not looking.
20 minutes 26-29. The shortest of all three of the Hell in a Cell matches, by the way.
Crazy. So they beat the shit out of each other for 27 minutes, and the Orton McIntyre thing we'll get to. That was more of a, I don't know what the fuck that was.
I'm not sure what that was.
We already talked about the community theater match that they did with the first one. But yeah, by far the best match on the show. Enjoyed the fuck out of it. I wish they hadn't wrestled yet. I wish they would have saved this for WrestleMania. But yeah, I mean, this is what you get when you have 2 people who really care about their output and a well-done story by the standards of the promotion in 2020, because I think there's been a lot of flaws in the story that we've talked about over the last few months. But by WWE standards, it's been a good story.
Yeah.
And, and then they went out there and killed it and had a pretty great match, even with a couple of minor flaws. So yeah, really enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, good stuff. It's hard to believe that this is the same company as we talk about the rest of the show and the other stuff that's going on. But yeah, it lets you know that when you have people that care and people that have some investment in what they do and maybe I don't know, like I'm not privy to the backstage, but maybe whether they say, hey, let us kind of have our own rope, or because I find it just impossible to believe that the same people that put together Reigns and Uso will also put together Banks and Bayley. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, to me, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's these 2 saying, hey, let us have some rope, if it's whatever agent saying, hey, you know what, guys, let's all sit down and let's really put some effort and some thought into it. I don't know what it is, but like, it's hard to believe this is the same company, because this is like everything that I want out of pro wrestling and what I so rarely get from this company. So it was great. I went 4.5 with it as well. Probably my WWE match of the year, which, I don't know if that's going to make my top 10, but one that I'll definitely be in consideration for.
That's an interesting. I hadn't thought of that. I'd have to look back at my notes.
There's not a lot to pick from.
Well, I don't know if I liked it. I like Balor and O'Reilly, but that's NXT. I thought I liked Balor and O'Reilly a little bit better than this match, but thinking about main roster, you're right. It might be the main roster.
The main roster's tough this year. Yeah, there's a few NXT matches that I'd probably have above it. But
before the pandemic too, there was the great Imperium versus Undisputed Era tag.
Yeah. Right.
I'm looking through. I can do this quickly because there just isn't much to choose from. There was Fight Pit, of course, but that was NXT, and I think this was better than Fight Pit. How about Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania? I really like that. Did you?
I did not like it as much as you did. Yeah, so I'd put this over that one.
I got them both at 4.25, but I got to say that this Sasha Bayley match was better. Did you see the Daniel Bryan Drew Gulak match from March that people love?
I'm trying to remember back. I think I did, and I think I did like that one a lot.
This was better than that, though.
I think so too. Yeah.
Now I'm pre-pandemic, so let's see. We're gonna keep NXT out of this.
Okay, yeah, because there's a bunch. There was like a Fish and O'Reilly and Riddle and Dunn match. Yeah, that was great. That was tremendous. That might be, if you encompass all of WWE, that might be my WWE match of the year. But if we're just doing main roster, yeah, then no.
Yeah. Okay, now
not a lot.
January. That's NXT. So Tyler Bate, Jordan Devlin, the NXT UK match from January. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, I like that one a lot. Yeah, that was great.
But again, not main roster.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, the Imperium Undisputed Era. Remember the Worlds Collide show, Rich, from Houston was this year.
No, it's not. You're wrong. That was 6 years ago.
Great show, too. That had Finn Balor versus Ilya Dragunov. Remember? Very good opener. And then the Devlin, Angel Garza, Isaiah Scott, Travis Banks four-way. Couple problematic fellas in that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, they all canceled. The canceled scramble there, but that's all right, hey.
And I remember that also had Trent Seven and Tyler Bate against the reformed Gargano and Ciampa match.
Oh, that's right. That was really good. I like that match a lot.
And then the Imperium Undisputed Era match with the
hell of a show. Fuck, that show rules.
It was a great show.
I should go watch that again where there was fans again. Remember the good old days of early 2020 when, little did we know it was going to come for the next 9
January
months.
25th. That was where, remember, Wolf got knocked out by accident, and it actually improved the match because then the baby faces were outnumbered. So that's probably my overall WWE match of the year, Undisputed Era versus Imperium. But, yeah, I can now say definitively, main roster, it's Bayley and Banks.
There it is. See?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's quickly go over the rest of this card here. Bobby Lashley and Slapjack.
God.
Oh my God. The backstage where you got the Hurt Business being like, yeah, we'll face that loser in the mask. And then they all look at each other and kind of go, ha, 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 ha. It was like the perfect.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no, these guys are so dead.
I felt so bad for all of the guys from Australia that follow us and we follow them back, and they're all trying to put over Haste. And it's like,
it's not going to happen, guys. It's not going to.
Like, we're so proud of Slapjack, and I'm just like, are you?
I wouldn't be proud of him anymore.
Slapjack.
Yeah, I wouldn't be proud of Slapjack.
It's not Slapjack's fault.
No, it's not any of their faults, but man, what a dead end this is.
Well, the good news was, even though Slapjack went down, okay, to Bobby Lashley in like 3 minutes, that Rusty Trombone and Dirty Sanchez did run in after the match to save him.
Yeah, that's true.
So the rest of the Retribution team did. And then, the next night on Raw, that very crafty Mia Yim faked having a...
Who?
I don't even know her name.
I think it's Reckoning or something like that, right? Yeah.
Reckoning? What kind of name is Reckoning?
I don't know, dude. What kind of name is Slapjack?
I mean, Slapjack at least is a fucking noun. What's Reckoning? How is that a name? Yeah, well, she got a demon possession in the middle of the match.
She got possessed, yeah. Like people were saying, is she addicted? Is she like a crackhead? And she's like, no, I'm possessed. It's, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I love the defense that, because they would all come out to because people were like, is she supposed to be like on drugs or something? And then they had to like tweet out. I think she even tweeted out, no, I was possessed. Oh, all right.
Yeah,
sorry.
yes.
Sorry for not knowing that you were possessed. That makes a lot more sense then. Okay, sorry.
Well, it was supposed to be the idea came out today. I don't know if you saw this.
No.
It's supposed to be an epileptic fit.
Ah.
And she objected to that, among others. And they all went to Vince and said, listen, I'm not comfortable doing an epileptic. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So then they agreed on calling it a demonic possession.
Ah.
So when people on Twitter were giving her a hard time.
She knew it sucked.
For making fun of epilepsy. That's when she got defensive and said, no, I would never.
I see. Okay, that's fair.
It was a demonic possession. So,
God.
Good on her for not wanting to make fun of epilepsy. That's fine.
Yeah.
But the fact
Why does she have to go out here and say, no, it wasn't an epileptic seizure. It was a demonic possession. Like this you can't figure out anything else to do with Mia Yim? Nothing else?
Poor Mia Yim has to break character from Reckoning to explain that Retribution would never mock epilepsy. It was a demonic possession. It's all absurd.
That's ridiculous.
It's all an absurd failure. And I feel bad for every one of them. Yim, Thorne, Dio Madden, throw him in the mix.
Yeah, at least some of these other guys are at least like Slapjack. Like you can just dust off Shane Thorne at some point. You know what I mean? And like people probably won't care, or Mia Yim at some point you can. I think you can. But Ali is fucked though. This is it for him.
Dijakovic. I think Thorne is done because
he kind of stinks too.
He's been there forever, and if this doesn't work, they had never had any other ideas for him. Dijakovic, they're not going to give up on because he's legit 6'7".
I just mean these guys, if they really want to, they can repurpose them at some point.
No, they can. I'm saying like Dijakovic, they will.
Yeah, right.
Yim, they will. Thorne, I'd be worried because
Slapjack's done. This is it. This is it for Slapjack for sure.
Yeah, T-Bone. Is there a T-Bone?
There's T-Bar.
Oh,
There's
T-Bar.
That's Dijak. Or Dijakovic. Or what did they start calling him in NXT? Dijakovic or I don't remember. Who cares?
Dominic Dijakovic. Instead of Donovan Dijak. Right? Yeah, Dominic Dijakovic is his new name. But I just call him, TV reviews, I just call him Dijak.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Like, who could keep all that straight? Dio Madden. Remember Brock Lesnar destroyed him at the end?
I do.
Now, clearly Heyman wanted to go somewhere with that, but at some point along the line, here was Heyman's mistake.
Having ideas, pushing young talent.
Exactly.
Having a plan, thinking more than a week ahead of time.
You nailed them all. That was Heyman's mistake. Yeah. So then that never got resolved. Nothing came of that. So I'm sure in Heyman's mind, he wanted people to forget about Dio Madden for 6 months and then have him come out at the right time and fucking, get Brock, make a star, right? But you can't do that in this company. You can't think longer than a week. You just can't do it. So yeah, I think Thorne is the one that's on the most dangerous ground, the thinnest ice of the group. You think Ali is fucked, huh?
Yeah, well, because they can't even repurpose him. You know what I mean? He's out there, he's letting it all out. Like no mask, no weird name. It's just Ali. Like, yeah, I think.
I love the hardcore WWE fan headcanon that his hacker gimmick is tied into Retribution, which it definitely isn't.
No,
it has nothing to do with it. It's total happenstance. You really think they were thinking that long term with any of this? Not a chance.
All right, and then the main event here, Orton McIntyre. I don't know. They went 30 minutes. That's all I got. Do you have anything else?
It was ridiculous because, okay, here's the problem with this match.
It went 30 minutes?
It's very boring.
Yeah.
But the main problem with the match was what's the big spot in the match? The big spot in the match is Drew going through the table, and then he's spitting up blood.
Yeah.
Because he went through the table, right? But here's the problem with that. He jumped off the side of the cage and fell through a table. Why did he do that? Orton did not push him off the cage.
I think the idea was supposed to be, and I think they shot it like shit, is Orton hit his head against the cage, so he fell back.
No.
I'm telling you, that's what the story was supposed to be.
No, you're wrong. He jumped off the side of the cage through the table.
He did that. No.
He jumped. Rich, go watch it.
I know what he did, but Orton was supposed to be hitting his head against the cage, that he was going to fall down from there.
All right. This is just physics. If you're banging someone's
I
head...
agree. I know. It's WWE. They're stupid. They don't know how to do anything.
Why would they fall backwards fucking 10 feet? What is it like a fucking... I don't understand. Like, is it made of trampoline material and he just bounces back? You clearly see when they show the replay, he just leaps off of the cage while Orton's just hanging on. It was ridiculous. He spit. How about this, too? Orton climbs up to the top. Why did McIntyre follow him up? Why didn't he just wave his hands and walk away?
Yeah, I would have said, well, all right.
I don't know what you're doing up there, big guy, but I'm not following you up. So he follows him up. Okay, he's the babyface.
Well, he's a fighting babyface. I'm going to come get your ass up there. So
then he gets up there and Orton's got a lightsaber. What the fuck was that about?
I don't know. A club or something? Yeah, I'm not sure what it was supposed to be.
He had a novelty lightsaber that you can buy at like a toy store. It was like purple, and they're like, that's a pipe. And then he hits him with the pipe, and then they both just climb back down the cage. Like, what the fuck?
I know there was no reason to go up.
I don't understand how people like this. Like, there were people who really liked this match. This fucking stunk.
Yeah, I hated it.
It went on forever. Then it got horny. There was just so much wrong with this. Like, Orton is like going forehead to forehead with Drew.
That's right. Yeah. They were like, yeah. He was like holding his ear and stuff. Yeah, it was getting a little weird.
At one point, he definitely, and Kelly Harass from our site, he reviewed the show, right?
Yes, yeah, Kelly and it was Kelly and let me get the exact name. I think it was Sean Cedar. So it's Kelly, Kelly and Sean.
At one point, I could have swore when Orton was shit talking, he said, "I'm gonna put my dick in your ass." I promise you. And I went into our Slack and I was like, "Yo, did you guys just hear that? Orton just said he's gonna put his dick in Drew's ass." And Kelly was like, "I thought he said that too, but I thought I was going crazy, so I didn't say anything." What the fuck? I think he said that. This match got super horny. And then later on, they were like forehead to forehead. And he was like whispering in Drew's ear. Like it got oddly erotic in the middle of this match on top of everything else. It was just fucking weird and boring. And it sucked. And Drew jumped off the side of the cage. He didn't get thrown off. That made no sense. And then, you get the RKO from out of nowhere after the Claymore. And things are the same they've been from 10 years ago.
Yep,
go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, I did an article on the website. Yes, exactly. October 25th, 2010, October 25th, 2020. Miz is your Mr. Money in the Bank, and Randy Orton is your world champion. So, great. All right. Do you want to just skip Impact? I hate to do it, but I'd rather talk about RevPro.
Now we can blow through it. We can't skip Bound for Glory.
Okay, we'll do Bound for Glory then. Fine.
We have to spend a lot of time on all this, but we can...
You want me to quickly run down the matches then?
Yeah, throw the matches at me.
I'll do it.
We're gonna do this is what we're gonna do. The gimmick where Rich doesn't say shit, and I give like.
I'll jump in a few times, but yeah, I don't have much to say to be honest.
Okay, because I hated this fucking show.
Oh, it's terrible. It was a really, really bad pay per view. Yeah, there was nothing redeemable about this pay per view.
Show. This is a contender for worst show of the year. I thought this was worse than most of the bad WWE pay per views this year because this was not just bad. There was shit it just sucked. Anyway, let's go through it. This show was fucking atrocious.
Scramble match. Rohit Raju defeats Chris Bay, Jordan Grace, TJP, Trey, Willie Mack.
Second best match on the show, but it was a nothing match.
Yeah, which is not saying a whole lot. Call Your Shot Gauntlet match. I'm not going to list the names.
You really are blowing.
Oh, we're going to blow through. We legitimately have like 10 minutes. So
I'm tired of scrambles. That's all.
Yeah, no more scrambles. Gauntlet match. Bunch of shit happens. Rhino has to win because Heath actually legitimately hurts himself. So they were able to thankfully get out of that stipulation by having Rhino in the match as well. But whatever, dude. Who knows? It went 25 minutes. I wish it went 2. So
Heath tore up his groin or something. Oh, hernia. He got a hernia.
Yeah.
This was a terrible, terrible match. Another contender for worst match of the year. If you're trying to, people have trouble with that category. Here's another one. Mine is the Chris Jericho Orange Cassidy Mimosa match. Nothing's topping that for me. That's my worst match of the year. But this is up there. It was awful.
Yeah.
Bad comedy.
Don't forget that Impact Gauntlet women's match. Remember?
That was really bad too. Yeah.
There's a lot of bad Gauntlet.
That might have been worse. That might have been worse than the. I don't know. I'd have to go back.
This
and
was
watch
real
them.
bad, and it went 25 minutes too. So I'm never getting those 25 minutes.
Never going back to watch them, but I'd have to go back to watch them, which I'm never going to do. Bad comedy. Who in 2020 laughs at swoggle comedy spots? Other than John Thorne, who laughs at swoggle comedy spots in the year of our Lord 2020? Who? Who thinks this is funny? Besides John Thorne and Tommy Dreamer. They're the only people on earth who think swoggle is funny. I don't even think swoggle thinks swoggle.
I think he knows that he's not funny anymore, but they keep booking him, so he's like, all right, whatever.
Anymore? When was he funny? He was never funny.
Right.
So you have an intergender fucking gauntlet match with swoggle and bad comedy, and it sucked. The guy who was supposed to win got hurt. Luckily, they said that the other guy could. How lucky are they that they said Rhino or Heath?
I know. Oh my god, yeah, because they would have had to like fire Heath or like get him in the ring and just be like, do it, just do something. Yeah, they bailed themselves out there with adding Rhino to that stip. So
fucking sucked. What was next?
Moose and EC3. Speaking of fucking sucked, I halfway through I stopped because I'm done with matches that have dollar store cure background music. I'm just done. I'm done with these matches. I don't know. I don't care. Whatever. It's not a match anymore. I'm not talking about these matches. I'm not talking about this shit anymore. I'm not talking about promos anymore. We don't cover promos on this show.
The latest cinematic adventure.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling.
Just don't want any background music on a wrestling match ever again. I just want a fucking wrestling match.
I don't think EC3 can wrestle. I think, he did the squash match in BOP. He did this. I don't think he can wrestle. I think he's so injured he cannot wrestle. And I think that's why they did this.
That's a bad investment for a wrestler, but okay.
I think it's just, Impact is busy copying AEW and WWE instead of carving their own niche.
Right.
They shouldn't be doing cinematic matches. They shouldn't be doing, hokey murder mysteries that you would see on Being the Elite, because they're gonna continue to come off third rate if they're doing the same shit that WWE and AEW are doing. And it's a shame. They could be carving their own niche and doing something different. And they're just out there doing third rate. It comes across as third rate no matter how good it is, because the other two guys are doing it too.
Yeah.
Stop copying the people in front of you.
Right. You would think Impact would learn that over their, 20 years of existence, is that being, dollar store WWE is not a real successful way to but here we are. So
it's a surefire way to ensure that you stay behind them.
Yep.
And at this point, you're not even number 3. You could argue that they're like number 5. I'm not, with Ring of Honor and New Japan and whatever, MLW and whoever the fuck.
Right.
So yeah, it's shit. Anyway, what was next?
Speaking of shit, again, Ken Shamrock, Eddie Edwards. This was atrocious.
Yeah, but it was like the third best match of the show.
I know. But just by attrition alone, it ended up being about the third or fourth best match on the entire show, just by existing.
This should have been the worst match on any competent pro wrestling show, and it was like the third best match on this show. And good for Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, Ken Shamrock is legitimately, shockingly in like the upper half of this entire company in terms of an in-ring wrestler, which is not good.
I mean, he tries hard. You can tell that he's into it. He's making money. He cares, but he's really old, and sometimes he's not very good. But good for him. I mean, he's the effort is there with Ken, at least. And can Eddie Edwards, I feel like we say this every time, can he just go back to being Eddie Edwards?
I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can anymore. Doesn't get any better. Impact World Tag Team Title 4-way match. The North defeat Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. They also defeat Chris Sabin and nobody, because Alex Shelley was taken out before the match started. The Good Brothers were also in this match, but I cannot confirm that they actually ever got in the ring. So
no, they are just low effort.
Can they not wrestle either, or what was going on here? Because
look, Shelley, it turns out, was legitimately injured, so they had to shoot the angle. I get it. That doesn't mean I have to like it, and it's like unfortunate circumstances.
No, we got back-to-back bait and switches here, so that's fine, I guess. So.
And we did the title switch. I guess you have to because Shelley's hurt. I get it. But it was also the other trend here was every match to this point was either a really bad, it was either had a bullshit finish, was cinematic, or was a scramble.
Yeah.
Can we just get a one-on-one match where two guys wrestle and one is better? Ken, is that too hard? This show fucking sucked.
Impact Knockouts title. Deonna Purrazzo, who I put over like hell on the last flagship, saying that her character's been good. They've been building up well. Everything's been great. She's going to face Kylie Rae. Kylie Rae does not show up for the show. I guess we can briefly talk about that if we want. Regardless, they decided to go with their normal plan. They were going to have Kylie Rae beat Deonna Purrazzo, which I think is stupid. And then they decide, well, we'll have her replacement, Su Yung, also defeat Deonna Purrazzo for the title. So that's, you will never, ever be able to convince me that Deonna Purrazzo should not have just fucking beat Su Yung.
No.
What are we doing? What are you doing?
And Su Yung fucking stinks.
You finally got somebody. You finally have somebody with a little bit of momentum that's pretty damn good, that's getting some buzz, that you can build a division around, and she loses to Su Yung. The undead Su Yung.
Who's also terrible.
Yes.
Su Yung commits the crime that I cannot accept in my pro wrestlers. And it's those little choppy steps when they get thrown into the corner or into the ropes. Just that non-athletic thing that takes me right out of it. Those little choppy steps that you see all that. I can't stand that. She's not good. She's not a good pro wrestler. And yeah, I have no idea why they felt the need to do this title change. As for Kylie Rae, you have to use the kid gloves when you talk about Kylie Rae. You're not allowed to talk openly and honestly about Kylie Rae. We learned that the last time around. I feel for her. Okay? If she has this mental illness that everybody talks about as being the cause for this kind of stuff, I sincerely hope she gets the help she needs.
Absolutely.
But maybe pro wrestling is not for her. At minimum, you cannot push her. You can't. At minimum. Okay? Look, if she had an office job and worked in a cubicle, this would be a completely different scenario. You accept that every now and then, with a mental illness, you're going to miss a couple days of work. You're going to have your bad days. And no one would care. It's just, no one would care from the perspective of, I'm not saying nobody would care about her. I'm saying nobody would care.
Yeah. They'd say, oh, no. You're good. Take a few days off. It's cool. Do your work from home if you need to. What? Yeah, there's ways to adapt. It's pretty. If you have, if you have anxiety attacks, I don't know if, performing in front of crowds of people is really the best path for your life.
It's not even that. It's just, you gotta answer the bell, literally and figuratively. At minimum, you gotta show up to work. So maybe this just isn't for her. How can you trust her when your job is to put on a live performance? That's the difference here. She doesn't work in a cubicle. Any other line of work almost in the world, this wouldn't be an issue. Whatever her issues are would not be an issue. But in this line of work, it's an issue.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad she's okay. You shouldn't even have to say that. But you have to, because you know how people will get. You didn't even say you're glad she's okay. Someone said that to me on Twitter, it's like, go fuck yourself.
Right. We're talking about wrestling. We're covering wrestling, of course.
Yeah, obviously, I'm glad she's okay.
Yeah, at a baseline, I don't wish ill on this person who didn't show up for their booking. Like you idiot. Yeah. I hope she suffers because she didn't perform on Impact Bound for Glory. I'm not we're not cretins.
You stupid, boring fucking idiot. Enjoy your fucking block, dummy. But yeah, of course. But it's like, it becomes a tricky deal. It's like, how can you push her with any confidence at the baseline? I mean, you got to be able to figuratively and literally be able to answer the bell and show up to work. It's a live performance. Okay, this isn't an office job where your job can get done tomorrow when you're feeling better. This is not that. So I worry about her career from that standpoint, because at some point these promoters are going to say that she is not worth the trouble.
Right. I mean, at one time, one time, whatever. But yeah, 2 times now, that's tough. And it does. Like, if I was a booker, like, I'm sorry, I don't push you anymore. Like, Yeah, you can work my show, of course. Yeah, you're Kylie Ray. You're very talented. Of course you can work my show. But I'm not giving you a title. I'm not putting you in a main event. I'm not planning for you to win a title until... And that's promoters can absolutely be in the right to do that. That's nothing against her. That's not them saying, hey, look, I hope you suffer, da-da-da-da. It's just, sorry, like, I can't sell tickets with your name on it if I don't know for sure that you're going to come.
And Impact was put in a real tough spot because of that.
Right.
And I'm not saying they handled it well, because I don't think they did. I think as soon as she missed the call time, they needed to announce that she wasn't wrestling.
Right. We don't play the video. We don't use it for heat. We don't say, she didn't want to show up to work or whatever. Just say Kylie Ray had an incident, especially now more than now. Well, I guess you don't want to say she's got COVID.
Rich, but here's the thing. With that said, I can understand why they didn't announce that she wasn't there.
Again, there's kid gloves. It's COVID. I get it. Yeah.
There's a million reasons, because then everyone's going to speculate why she isn't there. They're going to worry about her. So that's why I'm saying Impact was in a real tough spot. What do? Do you do the right thing from a promoter standpoint and say she's not here? We don't want to false advertise, but we don't know where she is. You can't do that, because then people say, especially with her history, oh shit, they worry about her. Speculation starts. Rumors get worked. So I kind of get it. It was a real tough spot. I wouldn't have handled it the way that they did. But at the same time, I can't say definitively what I would have done. I think I would have waited to get word that she was okay, and then immediately announced that she wasn't going to wrestle on the show. And even if that was an hour into the show, because at that point, okay, maybe people bought the show and they're going to be annoyed. But I'm not telling people that she's not there until I know she's okay.
Right.
It's a tricky spot. What you don't do is play the entrance music and, like you're saying, use it for heat and all that. That's a bad way to handle it. Maybe just have Josh Matthews mentioned at the top that there's a change in the women's match, or just there had to be a better way. But I'm glad I wasn't in charge of attempting to make that decision.
Right. Well, and that's the problem too, is a lot of promoters don't want to be put in this situation either.
Yeah.
Where they have to play this PR game versus a promoter game versus a, not throw you under the bus. Because you could just say, hey, Kylie Ray didn't show up because she didn't want, you could throw her under the bus. They don't want to really do that. You create a lot of issues with that. And that's why, promoters don't want to be, they have enough shit to worry about right now. Versus,
could you have drummed up a fake storyline to explain her absence?
Yes, but then
Deonna Purrazzo cut her fucking tires or something. I mean,
yeah, I know. I don't know.
I mean, could you do something to let people know she's not working the show, but also not throw her under the bus or make people worry unnecessarily? But this is why we're saying, unfortunately for Kylie Ray, at some point, promoters are going to view her as not worth the trouble. That's going to be the end result here. It's a shame. But with that said, the live event business simply isn't for everyone. And I should also add this. We don't even know that it was a mental health issue. That's what everyone just said.
Everybody just kind of goes to that. Yeah, we have no clue.
Who even knows what the real issue was? All we know is that she's okay. Multiple reporters have said that she's fine. And she's not injured and she's okay. But everyone immediately has assumed that it's the mental health issues, which it might be. I don't know. But I haven't heard that from her. And I haven't heard that from any reporter because no one can get the information. It's always like a closely guarded state secret when it comes to her, what the issue is. And it's weird. It's fucking bizarre. I don't know. We should probably move on. We're probably in enough fucking trouble.
We are,
it's
yeah. But
this is like the hottest topic. Like it's like so salacious to just discuss it. But it's like, I don't know. Anyway, what was next?
All right, so we're 5 minutes over. We'll go about 10 minutes over. Our overlords will allow us to go 10 minutes over. That's fine. We'll ask nicely. Yeah. Rich Swann, Eric Young. That was our main event. Impact World title. Rich Swann wins the title, becomes a new Impact champion.
Great match. Notebook match for me.
Yeah, really, really good.
This is a good example of what in-match trash talk looks like versus,
It's also a good example of what pro wrestling looks like. This entire show was like trying so hard to be I don't know what, and it was just like, I don't know, man, 21 minutes of two guys working their ass off, and one wins and one loses. I don't know.
Yeah, versus
seems a lot
scripted
easier.
dialogue.
Seems a lot easier than getting 6 cameras together and a bunch of fucking, editing together to get Moose and EC3 to be a passable whatever the fuck it was. It seems a lot easier just to have 2 guys that wrestle and then they wrestle. But I don't know.
And long-term storytelling, which got a payoff.
Yeah, it was great.
Rich Swann winning the Impact World title, which they, have been setting up for months. So good long-term storytelling, good work. Eric Young is very good. We've talked about him before. Rich Swann. I've had hiccups this whole show.
I know you've pushed through. I thought eventually you're gonna have to just mute totally, but you've done a good job of pulling through.
And Rich Swann is your Impact World Champion.
Yeah, good stuff.
Couple of titles in that household with Sue Young, right?
Oh, right, yeah. There
you go.
Household's draped in gold now, but no, the Swan is a great story with Swan. Yeah, he comes back from his injury. He fights, like hell. Eric Young doesn't want to give the title up. Rich Swann, yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah, it's not hard. It's pretty easy sometimes.
I can't sit here and break down whether this is a good world title change in the middle of COVID when they're not selling any tickets and everything, but it's a nice little story. I guess that's all that matters right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So, that was Bound for Glory, which outside of that match, I mean, even counting that match, it's one of the worst shows of the year, but I think that match saves it from being the worst show of the year.
I agree. Yeah. No, if that was a dud, then yeah, we're talking horrendous. But I did not feel, when that match was over, I didn't feel like I completely wasted my time because at least I got one decent match out of it. So
also easily the worst match, the worst pay-per-view of the Don Callis Impact.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Head and shoulders, because they became a really good pay-per-view company for a lot of, like 2-3 years there. They were legit, like buy their pay-per-views because it's going to be a good ass wrestling show at a baseline, and they definitely lost that with Bound for Glory. So
this show combined with the murder mystery on Impact, where Johnny Bravo gets shot and it's treated like comedy
during a wedding. Yeah, you forgot to mention during his wedding. So
that combined with that makes me totally not interested in paying attention to Impact.
No, they're off my list for now. They have to win me back. They got to win me back. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to turn on Impact every week and watch this murder mystery. It's not going to be funny. It's not what I want out of my wrestling. The pay-per-view was fucking horrendous. Impact is out of my fucking sight and vision for now. They've got, like you said, I need to hear positive buzz before I get back in. We'll parachute back in for the next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But if you think I'm watching this bullshit every week, you're crazy. I'm not doing it. There's just not enough hours in the day, and I'd rather watch my fucking old New Japan tapes that I've been watching.
Yeah, you're into that.
1982. I'm into it.
That's gonna hurt. Yeah, that's just gonna hurt you because that's just dudes being dudes. Guys go out there.
Well, here's the thing, Rich. Did you know that wrestling has to be a variety show?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it can't just be a dude in a fucking button-up shirt that says, I want to kick your ass, and the other dude in the button-up shirt's like, fine, fucking prove it, and then they fucking prove it.
It's funny that I'm watching a period of New Japan that was red hot with sold-out crowds everywhere. That was most decidedly not a variety show whatsoever. So, that's just total bullshit, and I'm tired of people saying that, too. But
Tatsumi Fujinami was known for his song and dance routines all the time, though. That's coming, though. That's coming soon. You're going to get it soon. So
absolutely. Yeah. Total.
I think he's still a young lion now, right? And by the time you're watching, but yeah, by 85, full song and dance with old Fujinami out there. So
has to be a variety show. My favorite people who
something
say that,
for everybody, Joe.
Yes. My favorite people who say that. You know, my favorite people who say that are.
Who are your favorite people that say that, Joe?
When I say something bad about AEW, and then I get someone in the mentions that their handle is like AEW fan for life, Elite is the best, names of that genre, AEW logo in the avatar, or a big Kenny Omega picture or something. Right. When it's someone like that and they tell me, well, wrestling has to be a variety show. And I'm thinking to myself, or their name is like WWE Hater 1237, or their description says they can't stand WWE and they're big. Well, that's a Vince McMahonism that you're spouting.
Right, yeah, you're just regurgitating that because that's what he wants wrestling to be, but it's not actually what it needs to be. So
you're regurgitating the thing that he said for decades, which is why AEW now exists. But they don't realize that. They don't understand that. Anyway, let's talk about this RevPro show.
Yeah, let's talk about a great show here. This RevPro Epic Encounters 4. This was their first foray into Twitch. We have gone well over, but fuck it. We're going to do it live. RevPro Epic Encounters 4, Twitch. They're now doing these things live on Twitch instead of fight. So they're going live on Twitch, and then they're going to put them over to the RevPro on demand afterwards. So this is kind of a new a style instead of just having them on fight and available on demand or whatever. But yeah, all in all, I watched almost all of this. You have seen all of it. RevPro Epic Encounters, man. That's it, man. That's what I want out of wrestling. It is episode by episode. It's episodic wrestling, basically. Stories are being told. People are being elevated. The best thing that happened in this entire show, and we'll talk about it all. The opener was Will Ospreay versus JJ Gale. And for people that have been watching the other RevPro Epic Encounters, you and I have watched all of them at this point. I think we've talked about all of them on these shows. Will Ospreay, the first 3 nights of these Epic Encounters, the first 3 of them, was Will Ospreay. What we know, Will Ospreay of 2019, of 2018, like that guy, bouncing all over the ring, the whatever, everything like that. This one comes out. Epic Encounters 4 comes out. It comes out on the 25th. He has now already turned heel in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's already started to use the figure 4, leg lock in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's a slightly different character in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Joe, he comes out here on Epic Encounters 4. He's a fucking heel. He's an asshole, and he uses the figure 4. Even though the shit was taped 2 months ago or whatever.
Yep.
I fucking love that. I am such a nerd about stupid pro wrestling that the idea of planning this out gets me going.
Yep.
I love this. I love the idea of one of the classic examples of like having a plan that people always bring up is WrestleMania 4. Randy Savage wins the title. Hulk Hogan lifts Elizabeth up, and Randy Savage just makes a slight little look at Hulk. That's it. Just a little like, the fuck? All right. That's fine. I'm the champion. Whatever. Because they knew a year out they were going to do that match.
Yep.
I love Will getting to this fucking warehouse or whatever, wherever they're at, I forget what it is, and saying, fuck, I'm going to be a heel in New Japan. Like, knowing that, first off, New Japan said, hey, you're going to be a heel when you come back, which is awesome that they knew ahead of time. And we know that they do that stuff ahead of time. And then Will having the foresight to say, all right, when's this episode going to air? And they say, we're probably going to air it on this time. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be a heel in New Japan by that point. So I'm going to work like a heel. I'm going to do this move. I fucking love that stuff. God, I love planning, careful thought. Because it would have been real easy for Will Ospreay to go do all 5 of these or 6 of these Epic Encounters or whatever. I forget how many there are. And bounce off the ropes and do his normal Will Ospreay stuff and just move on and like it's nothing. Yeah, New Japan, I'm a heel and I'm doing the figure 4. Well, who gives a shit? I'm here today and I'm doing this stuff right now. But the idea, the foresight to say, no, I'm going to work like a heel, because that's what, if people are watching New Japan and watching RevPro, which you and I are, you're going to notice, hey, that's weird. Will Ospreay isn't a heel in New Japan, but in this RevPro, which is presumably supposed to be, airing right now, he's a total babyface. But he didn't. Yep. He worked like a fucking asshole heel, exactly like his character in New Japan, and I love that shit. I love it. Planning.
Well,
notebooks, whiteboards. I love it.
Whenever this was taped months and months ago, he was obviously thinking about how he was going to work as a heel in New Japan, and then applied that to the first match that he knew was going to air after he began working.
I love it.
Which means he's been thinking about how he was going to change his work after his New Japan turn for months and months and months. And that's why he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Attention to detail. And, he could have done this RevPro taping and not given anything that he was going to do in New Japan a second thought.
No.
But that continuity, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, nobody would have cared. Like, I would have just said, that's weird, but whatever.
And it might not even come across as weird.
Right.
I mean, we may not have even noticed. But he put the thought into it, and it's like not even for the whole taping. He sat down with Quilden and figured out which one was going to air after all of this, and then started working that way from that point, from show 4 forward. It's fucking great. And that's the kind of shit we can sink our teeth into as fans. Because we know that they care.
Yeah. That they thought, that they cared, that they sat down, that they planned ahead. They planned a month ahead. They planned a week ahead. They planned 3 months ahead. They planned a year ahead, whatever. Just they fucking sat down and thought about it for a second and said, all right, well, no, okay, when's this going to air? Oh, that's okay, no, that's after the G1. So, no, I'm going to be a heel then. So, no, I'll work this way.
When he gave Gale that, forearm shot to the thigh that he gave Show in Korakuen Hall, the same one he gave to Show in Korakuen, I was like, this motherfucker is going to do it.
What a great pro wrestler. What a great pro wrestler.
and then using the figure 4, and it's like, holy shit, this guy, it's like this is what it's all about.
Well, from the moment he came out, if you were watching the other Rev Pros, it was a completely, like, his music comes out and he's just different. He just comes out and he's a different asshole. Like, and it's awesome. Yeah. God, it's again, and like you said, it's one of those simple things that, like, I don't know. I mean, 50% of the people watching may have picked up on it. There might be other people that watch this that have no idea. You and I maybe would have missed it too if we didn't really kind of like give thought to it, or what, like, or we didn't watch New Japan, like, whatever. It didn't, like, there's such a small amount of people that probably would have cared that much about it, but it makes it that much better though. That he just thought about it. He was like, no, that doesn't make sense if I come out and I'm a babyface. I'm
just impressed that even way back when, he was thinking about how he was going to work as a heel, and the new elements and wrinkles he was going to add. That I'm impressed enough by that. What'd you think of JJ Gale? Because I've been screaming at you that this guy.
Oh, I loved him. Yeah, he was great. He's gonna be a thing. How young is he? Because he looks obviously still pretty young, but I thought he was tremendous in this match.
Man, and he was great against Haskins, but I chalked that up to maybe Haskins being great. But the last 2 matches as well. I mean, he's just brought it. And you could see that RevPro believes in him, because you don't give him this kind of spot against the champion on this show, and against Haskins a couple shows before. RevPro has put thought into who's going to be next, because they need to. Between Ricky Knight Jr., which we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And just Gale. I really believe this Gale is going to be a player on whatever is left of the UK scene when everything gets back to normal with COVID. And whether that means just RevPro or whether the indie scene does get ramped back up over there, this Gale is going to be one of those guys that we keep talking about. We need people to fill spots from all the guys that have been banished. He's going to be one of them.
Absolutely. Oh, no, for sure. Yeah.
I really feel like he's going to be one of them.
Yeah. No, and they put him over enough to do it. He's got his body. I mean, his body looks pretty solid as well. He's obviously still pretty young, but no, his in-ring was good. Yeah, he'll fill that out. You could tell. He's definitely a guy to keep an eye on for sure. The Indies, the UK is going to need people, and he's absolutely a guy that if I'm running anything in the UK, he's a guy I call.
Yeah, and it seems like he's a RevPro guy, so good for them for identifying who's next and going with it. But perfect kind of match too for this scenario. Gave him just enough. The champ gave him just enough, but it didn't go too long, and then Ospreay puts him away. So. Very enjoyable.
All right, then we had I missed these next 3 matches, but maybe you can talk about these ones. Yeah, so best of 5 series match 4. So best of 5. This is match 4 of it. Kenneth Halfpenny defeats Brendan White. 2-2 now is where we're at. So believe it or not, the best of 5 is going to go down to the 5th match. I can't believe it either. So
yeah, so they're 2-2, and the idea here is the 5th one's going to be best 2 out of 3 falls too. So. Another little wrinkle there. But if you've seen their other 3 matches, this was much of the same. White worked an injured arm kind of gimmick here. But, they go out there. They're like dollar store New Japan Young Lions. They go out there and the work is simple and solid. And they tell a simple story, and it is what it is.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, they took these 2 guys, and they could be out there having nothing matches. But they put the effort in to tell a 5-show story with these 2 guys. And that's why RevPro to me is the best booked indie in the world. And I'm changing my stance on it. I keep saying RevPro is the best booked indie in 2020 and all that. It's quickly becoming my favorite promotion.
Yeah, it's great. It's bullshit-free wrestling, well booked. There's clear progression. There's clear heel faces. It's just, guy finishes his match. He gets an interview. He talks shit about the next guy he's going to face. He makes a challenge. He leaves. Next 2 guys come out. They fight. The winner gets a promo afterwards. He makes a challenge. It's just, it's fine. It's great. I love it. It's fantastic.
One show sets up the other, and the matches are always very good.
We saw in 4 nights they made Ricky Knight Jr. like a dude who I like.
Oh, I'm getting to that.
He's like one of my favorite wrestlers in the world now. I'm like, let's go, Ricky Knight Jr. I'm like, hooting and hollering. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, I didn't know this guy. I didn't know his name 4 episodes ago.
We're going to talk about that. I've got a whole spiel for that.
Oh, boy. This one's going to go a half hour here. Mark Haskins and Joel Redmond. We're going to go 3.5 here. This old school. This is 2014.
Solid match here between 2 solid pros. Haskins has been good on these shows. Redmond came in kind of halfway through. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to say about it, but it was a very good match. One of the better matches on the show.
Mad Kurt, Dan Maloney, they set this up. Mad Kurt did a promo before the show started. It's Mad Kurt. You kind of get the idea of Mad Kurt. The in-ring never really delivers on the level that you kind of wish or hope it would. But I watched a little bit of this match, but I saw the ending and a few minutes of it. But yeah, nothing that really, in those few minutes, that really hooked me.
He's a weird looking dude with a weird body who took the American meme wrestler route, and he's, where would he be without this character? So you got to give him credit for that. Similar to where would Danhausen be? Where would Dan the Dad be? Where would the Alley Cat be? It's the same kind of idea. The idea here was Maloney was undefeated in RevPro, and it's like Mad Kurt was like just this annoying guy, and he didn't really take him all that seriously. Put him in a choke. He passed out for like a brief moment, and the referee stopped the match. So it was kind of a gimmicky finish to end his undefeated streak. And it didn't really work. It probably looked better on paper than it ended up being in practice. And then Shaw Samuels was the big surprise. He came out and attacked Maloney to set up a match for Epic Encounters 5.
All right, and then Ricky Knight Jr., Kyle Fletcher, 12 minutes and 23 seconds. I love this match, and I love Ricky Knight Jr. He is great. I'm invested. I want this guy to beat Ospreay, win the title, become a star. I'm all in on Ricky Knight Jr.
So you want to talk about good booking and why RevPro is so well booked. Here has been his path on these shows. Epic Encounters 1, he teams with Kyle Fletcher. They beat Oku and Will Ospreay, okay? And he scores the big pinfall.
Yes,
we
which is
talked
important.
about it on the show.
Him scoring that pinfall is very important, by the way, not just the throwaway.
Very important. And we talked about it at the time. That was a huge scalp for him to pin Will Ospreay. And in the post-match interview, he's all excited because he pinned the champ. He thinks he should get a title shot. And Kyle Fletcher is like, hold on, I've got the next title shot. Okay? So calm down. I'm next in line. So they set up a little bit of tension between these two guys, even though they just won their match. So hold that thought. Next show on 2, he holds kind of this secondary cruiserweight title, the SWE, whatever it was called. So they have him drop that title to Oku, who's the RevPro cruiserweight champion. That's important because they're elevating Ricky Knight Jr. So they get this other little secondary title off of him. He loses in a way, which is kind of bullshit because Connor Mills interfered in the match. So he loses, but he doesn't really lose, right? And it also puts 2 titles on Oku. So that was smart. We get to the 3rd show. He faces Connor Mills, who cost him his title. See how this all makes sense? And he gets his revenge and beats Connor Mills. On that same show, Kyle Fletcher gets his title shot against Will Ospreay, and he loses. So Will Ospreay's still the champ. Fletcher is now out of the picture because he got his title shot and he came up short. Ricky Knight Jr. Gets a big win over Connor Mills to get revenge on Mills costing him the title. And then on this show, it's Ricky Knight Jr. versus Kyle Fletcher. And Ricky Knight Jr. firmly establishes himself as the number 1 contender by beating Kyle Fletcher, the guy that they set up tension with on show number 1, and the guy who was the previous number 1 contender. And now Ricky Knight Jr. is going to challenge Will Ospreay for the title on Epic Encounters 5.
Right, which he does after the match. He gets a promo after the match and says, I'm going for Will Ospreay and I'm going for that title. And Will comes out, talks shit, and they build it up. And
they have their face-to-face standoff. That is how you book
I know.
wrestling. Step-by-step progression. It all makes sense. One thing leads to the next. That is how you do it.
And
Get into it.
Your total time investment's like an hour. You know what I mean? When you really, if you only watch Ricky Knight Jr. matches and didn't watch these entire shows, which are 2.5 hours or whatever, if you just watch all the Ricky Knights, an hour of your time got you to that point. Got you from guy that you might not know about, scores the big win, and then works his way up 4 nights later. Now in the 5th night, he gets a match against Will Ospreay. He finally gets his chance at him.
Rich, on one set of tapings in one night, they took a guy who was fucking around and wrestling Robbie X on undercards before the pandemic started. And now they've gotten him over to where he's a main event player in the company, and he might win the title next on the next show. In one set of tapings, they accomplished that. And we got to sit through the fucking slop that we sit through with American indie wrestling.
Yeah, some assholes got to get shot. We got fucking Danhausen. Bullshit. Unbelievable.
I got to sit here and watch Game Changer shows where they don't book shit. They don't give anyone any direction. The matches are always terrible. That's what we get here. In one fucking night, no pun intended, they made this kid, Ricky Knight Jr. One night. Logical, progressive booking. And that's why I'm all in on this stuff. They've done such a great job. I don't know how many more they have in the can. I hope there's 100 of them.
Yeah, you hope they just filmed every minute of every day for an entire weekend. Yeah, I don't know how many more.
Shows rule.
I know they rule. I don't want them to go away. They've been the one thing that's given me hope during this entire pandemic.
They made this guy, and they're working on Callum Newman, and they're working on JJ Gale. They got more coming. There's nothing throwaway on these shows. Every match means something and leads to something. That's all that's all we ask for as fans. And the matches are good. They're filling up my notebook, these shows. There's no match of the year contenders, but, 4 and a quarter consistently. 2-3 matches on each one of these shows. Maybe not that many. 1 or 2 on each show. This Ricky Knight Jr. Kyle Fletcher match ruled. God. And did you notice Ricky Knight Jr. is like taller than Will Ospreay? I didn't realize that. He's not a small kid.
No, he's a big dude. Yeah, I noticed that from the first night. That's when I initially got my attention to him. I'm like, ooh, he's got some size here. It's not a little guy. He's got some decent size to him. He's got a little baby fat and stuff. Maybe not fully to get, but yeah, you could definitely see the building blocks there of a really good guy. I think he's like 22 as well. He's like super fucking young.
He's a kid. You think of him as a flippy dude, right? But he's like nose to nose with Ospreay, and I think he was a hair taller. And Ospreay's not a short guy. He's 20, Ricky Knight Jr.
Oh, is he 20? Oh my God.
20.
Damn.
And we know the family's wacky. So what? A lot of wrestling families are wacky. This guy's now a player. What a tremendous job by RevPro. How can you not be fired up for Ricky Knight Jr. versus Will Ospreay? They're going to tear the house down, too. Anyway, that was epic. Well, wait, there was...
Giselle Shaw, Bea Priestley was your main event for the British women's title. Giselle Shaw defeat Bea and kept her title as well. So.
The best thing about all these Bea Priestley and Jamie Hayter matches is what do you call their group? Odeyo Tai? What's it called? Oedo Tai? Odeyo Tai? The theme song for that group is a fucking banger.
Oh, it's
I
great.
love that song.
Yeah, it is really good.
What a great song with the woman wailing in the background and the fucking drum beat. Fantastic stuff. Then Bea has to wrestle. But
yeah, then the bell rings, unfortunately.
It's all right. I mean, she was way worse a few years ago, but I still don't think
Yeah, and Giselle Shaw is like fine too. You know what I mean? She's
replacement level wrestler.
Yeah, she's fine. She's perfectly like you absolutely see, why you would push her, but yeah, she's fine. In a better world, she's just like a mid-card, women's wrestler, but given that, there's not many left and times are tough to find, women talent in the UK and whatnot and for a multitude of reasons, of course. She's not a bad sort of fallback option, so.
But I mean, all the women's stuff built up to this too. I mean, they
did it. Yeah, the story itself was good. Like you said, the bell has to ring, and that's the unfortunate part. But they keep it's not like they're going 25 minutes there. They understand their limitations. But yeah, they've had tag matches almost the exact same way. They've had tag matches. They've broken out into singles matches. There's been clear directions going towards Giselle Shaw versus Bea Priestley being the big match between the women, and they did it. So yeah, kudos to them again. I was invested in the match. I just didn't love it, but I was invested in it.
Yeah. So. Here's the matches for 5. I got the whole card. Mad Kurt versus Robbie X. Oku and Mills.
I'll skip that one for sure.
Oku and Mills versus JJ Gale and Callum Newman. So
that's talent. There's a lot of talent on that match, yeah.
Yeah. And Oku's a heel now, and he's paired up with Mills. And then you got Gale and Newman, who are, the fiery underneath young hotshot baby faces. Bobby Tyler and Zoe Lucas versus Odeyo Tai, Priestley, and Hayter. White and Halfpenny. Kenneth Halfpenny is the most British name.
That's pretty aggressively British. Yes.
Sir,
if you had Sir Kenneth Halfpenny.
Well, there you go. You just came up with a great idea. Best 2 out of 3 falls to end the best of 5 series. Shaw Samuels versus Dan Maloney, which was set up on this show here with the post-match attack. And then for the undisputed British heavyweight title, Will Ospreay versus Ricky Knight Jr. God, I'm looking forward to that. More than almost any match in wrestling. I mean, I'm so looking forward.
Yeah,
Look,
I'm with
this
you.
isn't hard. I mean, you just build it well.
That's my saying, man. It's not hard.
It's fucking not hard.
Just kind of think of what you're gonna do and then just do it. Like it's not. Have a plan, write it down, and then say, okay, how do we get to this? All right, here we go.
And these shows are free now. You just got to watch the Twitch gimmick. You don't get the replay though. You got to watch it live.
That's the problem. You do have to watch it live, which stinks. But if you get the RPW on demand, you can watch it on demand. So
I paid for this shit. You get my money if you book like this. You book like this, and you give me this kind of action and booking and stories.
You get $10. Yeah, I get $10 a month from old Joe Lanza. Yeah,
$750 a month.
$750 even better.
Might as well be free. I mean, you give me this kind of action and this kind of storytelling and this kind of wrestlers of this quality, and you put this much thought into it, you earn my money. They have earned my money.
All right, so we are way over here. we want to skip over the RevPro. We're at 333. This is old school, fucking 2014 Voice of Wrestling Flagship. Hopefully you guys...
Good thing we had all that theater talk.
Yes, I know. We're talking about Guys and Dolls and Andy got her gun and all this other bullshit. Anyway, that's it for us. VoicesOfWrestling.com, Patreon.com/Voice of Wrestling for all our additional coverage as well. At Voices of Wrestling on Twitter. That's Joe Lanza. I'm Rich Craich. Talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye.